It is now 6:01, I believe. I'm going to call to order the Select Board for Monday, August 3rd. Everyone who's going to be here this evening is here. Mary Hartman is still not with us. I'll give you an update in just a minute. Our first agenda item, as always, is public comments. So public comments are for topics that are not on the agenda, usually limited to 3 minutes. And if you are remote and want to make a public comment, please use the raise hand feature to make a comment. And if you're in the room, you're welcome to come up to the table. All right, I'm seeing no raised hands, so we will move on in the agenda. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Not a lot on the consent agenda today, Cameron.
Yeah, does anybody have any
comments? No, I mean, I think Kristen made the corrections that I identified earlier. It sounds like we might still need to get Diane Proctor as a participant for CPC for the Housing Roundtable, but outside of that, I think the edits were there.
I'd just like to add that with gratitude, the donation from the Carlisle Foundation gift.
Yes, absolutely. $10,000 is quite a bit of money. Appreciate it. Goes a long way. Thank you. All right, so.
Yeah, so a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented, inclusive of edits to the spelling of Ms. Ravelli's name and attendance and appropriate attendance for Select Board and CPC.
Great. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you. All right, Select Board appointments.
Okay, so Select Board appointments. Motion to approve the Select Board appointment of Nikita Subramanian of 1731 Lowell Road to the Concord Cultural District for a term to expire on May 31st, 2029.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Nope. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Again, unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Cameron. All right, move on to the chair's report. Just have a few updates. One is I actually was able to speak with Mary yesterday, and I'm pleased to report she's going to be coming back and fulfilling her select board roles in 2 weeks. So she'll be back with us on August 17th. So glad to hear that. The second is just a reminder, the MCI Master Plan Committee is meeting this Thursday, and we're going to do, the consultants are going to be giving a presentation on the refinement to the illustrative plan. So those that are interested should chime in, participate remotely if you want, or just watch the video afterwards. And then third, I just wanted to note that for our next meeting on August 17th, we're looking to have an executive session, and I wanted to feel out the board to see if we could start at 5:30. And Cameron, I always look to you because I know you're working, right? So do you think that could work for you? If not, it'll just...
Sorry, 5:30?
5:30, would that work for you?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so our next meeting will start at 5:30. All right, well, we will get that finalized and more to follow on that. And that's all I have for a chair's report this evening. So, Carrie, town manager's report.
All right, thank you and good evening. I wanted to report to you that this Thursday, town staff will be continuing its presentations to the Finance Committee. We have our Public Works team coming in to meet with the Finance Committee. That will be about the halfway point, and then in the month of September we have public safety coming to one meeting, and then community development and any of the remaining team coming in to present. I think the presentations have been very helpful. I think the presentations themselves, even if you haven't had a chance to attend or watch the meeting, there's a lot of good information, and we are going to make the full packet available to the select board so that you have that for reference as we go through the fiscal 28 budget process. I did want to let you know, and I know you were made aware over the weekend, we did have a significant water main break. That was late Friday evening into Saturday AM, and I'd like to thank our water and sewer team that worked through the night to make those repairs, and to the 20 to 25 customers that were impacted. So we had a water main break on Middle Street and Thoreau Streets between Belknap and Sudbury. We also had a resultant sewer collapse, which is not uncommon because the two main lines are in the same proximity. So this happens on a it's not an uncommon occurrence for the two to happen. This is the second what I would call significant water main break in about 4 to 6 weeks. We're obviously dealing with older infrastructure, and we need to make sure that we're continuing to make upgrades to those systems. Our paving work continues. It's been delayed somewhat by the weather, but generally on track. We have some work happening on Bedford and Old Bedford. Those are the major roadways that you know, right? It's your route of travel. We also have some parking lot work that will be happening, and so we just opened bids on 2 parking lots, including the Church Street parking lot. That project has been long anticipated, so we do expect that this paving season as well. In public safety, both departments reported a fairly quiet week last week, but obviously following the major motor vehicle accident on Walden Street the weekend prior at Brewster's Hill. The accident is still under investigation, and the investigation is being led by the Mass State Police. The last word that I heard was that at least one of the injured parties remains hospitalized, and obviously, tragically, 2 individuals died as a result of their injuries. So our condolences to the family of those 2 victims. I did want to mention that we are again this year participating in the cybersecurity training program. As some of you know, you received an email today. So on a monthly basis, all of our users will be receiving a cybersecurity program or a little activity to do. We have revamped this year with the understanding that more frequent trainings of a shorter duration are more likely to stick with people. So on a monthly basis, there will be an activity that goes out. Most of this work is funded through a grant that we receive from the state.
Can I just ask a question there?
Sure.
There have been 2 or 3 different states where water systems have been attacked recently. I'm just wondering if you have any conversations with our water department about any vulnerabilities they may think they have, or is there anything we can say? That is something that is reviewed on a regular basis. There are scheduled improvements to improve those systems, but that is definitely something that is on the radar and very heavily monitored by our IT team.
Do we ever get an outside assessment or an outside quote-unquote audit of?
Yeah, so we did a fairly significant one just prior to the pandemic. We have some additional work that we are going to be starting in the next couple of months, again through another grant with an outside vendor who's going to do some work, somebody who's contracting with the state as well. Great. I did want to mention that we are in the process of working on a grant for a network geothermal project involving the Peter Bulkley housing facility.
Grant from whom?
Do you know who the grant is?
Yes, it is New England Heat Pump Alliance, I believe.
So this is a grant application, not grant received yet.
Mm-hmm.
Some of our CMLP team will be meeting with representatives from the Department of Public Utilities to discuss the rollout of time-of-day rates. The DPU has been very interested in the work we've done here, and they have a meeting later this week to talk about that. You do have the pilot agreement for the landfill solar and battery project on your agenda. I just wanted to mention that we are looking for that project to be have commercial operation by the end of this calendar year. And we do expect, if all goes well, that we'll see some demolition out at the site by the second half of this month. The Novo 40B project is scheduled to break ground sometime next week. We don't have the building permit officially signed off or paid yet, but there is some work that the applicant is allowed to conduct relative to site before the issuance of that permit. The Thoreau 40B project continues to move forward. Right now, there is some work that they are doing with DEP on the wastewater systems there. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention is that the O'Donnell Dive Well project will be presented to the planning board at its meeting later this month. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great.
Carrie, the packages that you prepared for FinCom, the series, it's a great set of information. You're making that available to the select board, but I assume that would go on our website at some point, because it's really a great educational tool for how
Yeah.
the town is organized at multiple levels.
Yeah.
Really,
We certainly can do that. It is publicly available right now, but only through the FinCom agenda
Yeah.
Right.
packet.
Yeah.
So
It's
if you didn't know it was there, you wouldn't find it.
Right.
I think we can put it probably under our fiscal 28 budget tab and then provide some information to the public
that'd
too.
be very helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great training opportunity, and I hope new FinCom members will review it also, because it started as a FinCom training.
Great training opportunity for new
Everyone.
residents and old
Yes,
residents too.
yes, true.
And
Great.
Megan, if I could follow up with you at some point on this
Geothermal.
network geothermal. I'm a little
Yeah,
concerned.
I would assume, Megan, maybe you'll speak to the Climate Action
Yeah.
Committee about that. They are very excited about geothermal, so anything
are.
up that lines would be welcome news. And it's consistent with our roadmap also,
They
right?
are.
Yes, I will say, to correct the name of the agency, it's the New England Heat Pump Accelerator Grant. And we're putting together an application to look at the feasibility of
Yeah.
network geothermal. So it's
Yeah.
not any type of installation.
I'm
or-
just wondering if we can dial it down to just geothermal for the Bulkley facility rather than networked, because networked is a much more
Another
expansive
thing.
idea,
Yeah.
which involves tearing up the streets and doing a lot of other things. And maybe if we can just get the Bulkley facility on a geothermal set of wells, that would be a good starting point.
I think that's I think that's a really good point. I think we haven't kind of ironed out all those details yet.
All right.
But there was a thought about how the Hunt Gym is across the street
Oh.
as a municipal facility.
Yeah.
So if we were going to network with anyone, it'd be good to think
Yeah.
about it for municipal operations. But
Right.
your point's well taken, and I'm happy to connect with you on
Yeah.
that.
Great.
Thanks.
All right. Well, let's, moving on in our agenda, the Bylaw Codification Committee. Charter.
Yes,
So,
Bylaw
Cameron, this is
Codification
you.
Committee, okay.
And just so for the audience, we all have hard copies. For the select board members have hard copy. I don't know, Kristen, do we have a copy of this that we can bring up online? Yes. For the public? Thank you.
So I'll just give it a
you
second
can
here
s-
to see
yeah.
if it comes up here, or as it comes up. So I'll set a little context as we're waiting for that. So we had this originally, Kari had originally provided an initial draft of
Yeah.
this in April. So what you see in front of you here is some revisions to that, or some proposed revisions. This is something that is required, again, per the town charter. So it requires us, we're sort of overdue
Yeah, yeah.
in having to look at this. And so in going through the document here, you'll see some changes that are really not intended to materially change the intention of what we're looking to accomplish, but rather to try to provide, a little bit of sort of wordsmithing specificity, and also a little bit more, I think, clarification on what the actual committee might do relative to what we would have a consultant do, and, get some support from the town.
Okay.
Because I don't think we're looking for a committee to necessarily dig up all the details on every rule and regulation we have in the town, for example, but can help
Okay.
be part of that process and help oversee that and help sort of make sure that that gets properly put together. So that's, the first couple of paragraphs of just some confirmation around what it is that we want to do from a background perspective. I think it is reviewing the existing bylaws. I think it's trying to understand, are there any inconsistencies? is there continued relevance of some of these bylaws? Some of them go back a long way. I recall seeing one about like parking your horse in town
Yes,
or something like that. So,
Riding it on the sidewalk.
It was on the side.
yeah, so like, okay, maybe we still need the horse parking bylaw, maybe we don't, right? But sort of going through it that way. And so the proposal is that there would be 5 members of the committee. Again, that we would look for people, where we can, find people who are volunteers who are interested in this and have some background in any sort of municipal governance. Probably would be helpful if some people may have a legal background, those kinds of things that would be helpful. And I think when we look at the responsibilities of the committee, right? So for me, the first one is really this kind of like inventory review, right? So, but I wanted to say, rather than the committee will conduct an analysis, that it's going to support the analysis of the existing bylaws. I think the intention is that we would have, and we've talked about an external consultant who has given us a proposal, who would come in and really sort of has experience in doing this and could really sort of help drive a lot of this analysis. But so the committee would sort of support that. And I think it's, you start by confirming the fact base, right? Making sure we have the complete inventory of everything that's out there. Sort of evaluating kind of the ongoing need and relevance. But then also looking at how things are organized, right? And how it's structured and how we might put things together for ease of use, for people to be able to access the information. And be able to utilize the information once we get it pulled together. So that's kind of the first page. On the second page, there's also, to the extent that we can look at and say, is there any legal things around the language or legal things around any, consistencies? Is it applicable to, Massachusetts statutes? And then, recommending any changes. And then I think also supporting it is almost kind of like there's all of the bylaws, and then there's also kind of this like compiling it all together into sort of a revised code and some of the supporting documents, which really are sort of like what are the regulatory and statutory rules that we have in the town, and the things that are sort of there as the key kind of governing regulatory components. That would, I think serve us well to have in one place. And so Kari and I have talked a little bit too about just how do we, trying here to not have it be every rule that exists in the town, but how do we sort of narrow it to those things that are really sort of the regulatory and statutory rules and regulations that we have. So along with the bylaws would be some sort of those components.
So would you anticipate that this would also go through all of our APPs? Is that the intent here? I don't think that.
I don't think so.
Okay, then.
I don't think so.
Okay, so.
But if there's some overlap.
So it says rules and regulations.
Yeah,
and this is so. Carrie, please come up if you want to join. Come join me,
that becomes a much larger.
Well, so this is where we were talking about like what is the scope, right? When we start talking about rules and regulations. My example was like, hey, if I want to buy, donuts for the department, do I need my supervisor's approval? Well, no, that's not what we're talking about, right? So go ahead if you want to jump in.
So there are policies and procedures which are different from rules and regulations.
Yep.
Okay.
And that would be the defining.
Great point.
Okay.
So,
Right.
okay.
And so I've tried to narrow it to like regulatory and statutory, rules and regulations.
So do we, in the same way that we have a policies and procedures inventory of APPs, you can go to the place on the website where you can see those. Is there a separate framework of rules and regulations, Kari, that are distinct from the bylaws themselves? Is that a
Yes.
So that is a thing.
So there are some committees, for instance, planning board has
Yep.
subdivision rules and regulations that
Okay.
change occasionally, and so the residents are expected to abide by them. The planning board uses those as a basis for
Right.
their decision making. Board of Health has many rules and regulations, and those are posted on their webpage. But there isn't one central place that someone can go to say, I'm interested in this subject. What are all the limitations that I need to know about in Concord
Okay.
for this subject?
And we're looking for a software application to help consolidate and
Yes, a
manage
platform,
and post,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
platform. Okay.
Are all of those items, 1, 2, 3, 4, are those truly supporting of the bylaws? Are they tangential, or how do
Well,
how
so
to
this is the
differentiate
tricky,
those?
yeah, so this is the tricky part. I mean, the way it's sort of written is the background, the responsibilities 1, 2, and 3 are pretty specific to the bylaws.
Right.
Okay, and then 4 and 5 kind of go a little bit, they do go, I don't want to say a little bit, they go beyond the bylaws and say, okay, if we're going to do this and we're going to put together these bylaws, should we also have, you know, supporting appendices, supporting documentation that includes what Kari was just talking about, beyond the bylaws, some of the regulatory and statutory rules and regulations, and put everything together into one place. And
they're
so
all
that's a little bit of like the discussion here is how, like, we want to, how much scope.
Well, it becomes larger than just the bylaws. It's almost
Yes.
the governing
Right.
documents of the town.
Right.
Yes.
But,
Is that
But
what
it's what you need in a single
But-
centralized place to understand
right.
a particular topic, right?
Okay, I mean,
Yeah.
if that's what we need to support the
So,
the bylaw deep dive and find.
Right, so, to now ask a follow-up question about rules and regulations. Bylaws are changed by town meeting, they're adopted by
Right.
town meeting. How do rules and regulations get, policies are adopted by the particular body, like we have policies that the select board has established. But how are rules and regulations, are they just done by the overseeing board? Is that,
Yes,
they just?
those are done by the regulatory
Okay.
body.
Got it.
And just number 3 is really a deep dive into,
Standing
I don't know,
votes.
into select board minutes, and I know,
Yeah,
I know we can do that through AI. I know Nate has done that exquisitely for a few things, but how deeply do we go into select board votes?
So this is the recommended changes are tied into the legal review. So what a codification vendor would do is they would look at the bylaws and look at the legality of them, the relevance of them, and make recommendations. And then those recommendations would be used by the committee
Mhm.
to make their recommendations. So the committee would
Yeah.
make recommendations based on the legal analysis done by the vendor. And they would bring those recommendations to the select board that would then ultimately go into the town meeting process of bylaw amendments if they're deemed appropriate. So this is not
Yeah.
on minutes level, this is
Yeah.
on.
Where it's relevant.
So one thing
Right,
that,
yeah.
that we went back and forth on a little bit, and I think that might help on 4 and 5 is if we're clarifying that any of these like standing votes or statutes are specifically pertaining to those that
Yeah.
set procedural rules. So we're not talking about like every vote of
Right.
the select board. We're
Where
talking
it's
about if the
relevant.
select
Right.
board.
It's where it's
Standing
relevant.
votes of
So you had an example of like there was a standing vote that said the town.
In 1948, there
Right.
was a standing vote of town meeting, that's the only place it's recorded, that determined that the town will hold an annual town caucus every year. And we've done so every year since then, but it's not a bylaw, it's a
Right.
vote of town meeting.
Right. And
So we want to we're trying.
Don't want to lose it.
I want to include this stuff, but we want to find ways to sort of narrow it to what we can focus on around like procedural rules.
I
So-
think one thing that might help is vendors that will bid on this work face this in every community.
Yeah.
They go in where they're integrating bylaws, standing votes, rules and regulations, the special acts of the legislature that will be very helpful because
Yep.
sometimes those are difficult. So
Right.
I think we just need to keep in mind that
Yeah.
vendors are
They're going to
They
advise
know-
us, right?
Yeah, they know what the process
Well,
is.
that's my other question. Is this basically the scope of work for a vendor, or this is a charge for a committee, but where does the vendor come in?
But we're using a vendor. Maybe Karen,
So,
you
so
could
the
speak.
scope of work for the vendor would be to conduct an organizational review of the bylaws.
Right.
Look at, what do they recommend as the best format?
So that's
And then the
that's
committee
number
would
one.
review that, and the committee has a certain number of days to review that. And then they would conduct a legal review, and the committee would review that. That is the piece that the vendor is involved in. The rest of it is really up to the committee to decide, and maybe it's more appropriate to say that what would be really helpful is for a committee that is looking at bylaws to also provide input on
Mhm.
what is the best way of organizing this material. There are
Mhm.
examples from other towns on how they include appendices, and the vendors offer appendices as a way of bringing other governing material into the code, the general code.
It might be helpful to the committee to indicate in here what the vendor does versus what the committee does, or so that relationship. I know the vendors probably know what to do. They've done this before, but if you're one of the 5 people on the committee, you're joining it, you read this, what do we do versus what the vendor does? It's just a suggestion. It's because it wasn't
Yeah.
apparent to me where the lines, division of responsibilities
Yeah.
are in here.
So-
A suggestion.
Yep,
So,
I think that's fair. I mean, again, we tried to soften the language to be more support and oversee
Yeah.
as opposed to conduct and, complete and
So-
execute.
So you're getting me in real time here?
Yeah,
yeah,
I actually think that the committee is doing these things. It is not supporting these things. It has an agent that it is contracted with,
right.
but you don't say that the Climate Action Committee is not producing the climate action report. They are producing it. They have a consultant, and they're watching over them, and they're helping them. But I kind of disagree with taking these words out, that's saying that the committee is conducting this.
I'm not saying take the words out, I'm just saying maybe clarify.
No. But the way that Kim edited it, he took out things. He took out things and said we're overseeing stuff. We're not. We're actually
Well-
doing this. The
You're
committee
making
will
decisions and
conduct it.
recommendations, yeah.
It
Yeah.
gives them agency. The committee will conduct and evaluate an organizational analysis. That turns into, it will support an analysis. Like somebody else is doing this and we're kind of watching, is really the way that language now reads. So just my initial take, since this is in real time,
Yep.
is that. So.
I mean, I see your point, Dean. I'm okay with it if we are, and maybe building off of what Paul said too. I'm okay with it if we add with the support. What I don't want to do is say, hey, you want to be on this committee? Here's all the, you need to go write all this stuff. You need to go dig through
Right.
the files, and because
Right.
you'll never get people to be like, I don't
Well,
even know
that's-
how to
Agreed.
do that.
Agreed.
That's kind of the
But I
Paul's
think the
point.
committee is doing it with the support of.
That's
the
fine if
consultant,
we
you
can
know.
clarify
Yeah,
that
yeah.
the
Yeah,
the-
rather than it's
with the
just-
support of,
Yeah.
because
Right.
that's all. Is I'm trying to get to
Fair
where
enough.
we're not asking, because we would be maybe asking people who don't have necessarily any expertise in it. I also would be like,
Right. Well, you're going to be looking for people who definitely have some experience
Yeah, we
with
are
town
going to be looking
committees,
for
et
people
cetera.
who.
we'd be
For
looking.
sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Cameron, I'm also saying, it looks like there's questions in some of so
So
number 5.
on the last piece, the question that I had was if we produce a revised code, who signs off on? Is that who then says, okay, this is good? Is that go to the select board? Is that something that has to go to town meeting? I mean, I get bylaw change has to go to town meeting, but if we're producing this revised code, how does that?
I would suggest changing that to recommend a revised code, and then it would be a combination of, and bring the recommendation to the select board, and then it becomes a combination of town meeting votes and select board votes as far as what is included in the code, as far as the appendices, or you can leave that part up to the committee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so recommend a revised code to the select board. Okay. I think that's fine.
So that we're using the word code here to be sort of an all-inclusive, like if we're recommending that we get rid of the horse walking bylaw, that's part of the recommendations. And
Right.
that piece would have to be peeled off and go to town meeting. And
Correct.
the other pieces. So the word code here is kind of being used in a fairly expansive way, is the way
Yeah.
I'm understanding that.
It's like a package that
It's a
we're sort of
package.
delivering,
It's a
right?
package. It
Different
has some,
pieces
it
are
may
gonna
have some
need-
bylaw recommendations.
Bylaws.
It may have some rules and regulation changes
Yep.
that it suggests.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, yeah, revised code, which maybe we can specify a revised code that is, the bylaws plus the other regulatory and statutory rules and regulations.
Right. But in the very next paragraph,
Well,
after
but
it
then you
says
have
produce a
the
revised
T-
code, it does break those
Yeah,
out.
it lists
Bylaws,
some, yeah,
standing votes,
special acts,
regulatory.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
a whole, those are in the appendices,
Yeah.
would be the add-on piece.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yep. We'll just make sure that it's clear.
You have a question here about all state statutes. It's state statutes accepted by the town. That seems pretty clear to me, right? Because those would be regulations we're following.
State statutes accepted by the town.
Those are
Accepted
things
by
like
the
the,
town.
like the
Local-
Right,
energy,
local
stretch
option.
energy code.
Yeah.
It's part of the
Yep.
state
Local
law, but only
options.
if your town decides to go with
Voted
it.
it, right.
Yeah.
Should it be local, the local acceptance options is probably more precise.
Yeah, that's
Or local options.
Or local options.
local option
Local option
statutes or whatever,
statute.
yeah.
Sort of, say that again, Carrie, what do you want to call, local?
The local options statutes. Those
Yeah.
are things that town meeting votes,
Yep.
where there's an option in
Yep.
Mass General.
41C
Okay.
and a half is a
Yeah.
local
Yeah.
I
option.
knew that was
Yeah, no, that's fine.
fine.
Yeah, no, that's good. I wanted to make sure that we were
Yep,
either capturing it
Yep.
or not being too expansive and
Yeah.
capturing every
Yeah.
little
No, it's
thing
fine.
that the
Yep.
state has ever told us to do.
yeah.
Right.
That's all.
No,
So-
that's fine.
We don't have to repeat that.
Yeah, so, okay. And then the last piece on the very last page was, again, just sort of recommending how the code will be made available, right? So just how it's organized, communicated, and accessible, I think is.
Yeah.
is
I mean,
sort
we're
of-
sort of buying a tool, right, that's going to dictate a little bit about how it's going to be made available, right? It's a platform, we're purchasing a platform,
It
right?
is-
But the
it-
committee
it would
will,
be a platform.
but the committee will dictate who's got access, or you mean set the rules around access to it, is that
Possibly.
fair? Okay,
Yeah, I think it's valuable to have it in there because it's.
Yeah.
It's the next step.
okay.
Okay. So what I'm hearing for feedback are a few things. So one is to actually revise the language so that the committee is actually sort of conducting, executing,
Right,
completing
that's kind of the way,
with the
yeah.
support
Yes, with the
of,
support.
Event.
of
Yeah.
external
Of a
consulting.
consulting
Yeah.
Correct.
organization.
Correct. Secondly is just in a couple of places, just making sure that we're clarifying, and I've got the notes here around, like recommend a revised code, making sure it's standing votes that, set procedural rules, and just sort of trying to clarify a
Yep.
couple of those pieces of language. And then third is to replace that last bullet on page 2 with local options statutes as opposed to state statutes accepted by the town.
One last piece of feedback, maybe it's a
Yep.
question, and maybe we've discussed this before, but, so this is a group, a committee, which has a two-year task with a deliverable. So this is not a standing committee, so should we call this a committee or a task force? And because we've had this little discussion before about working groups and task forces and committees. My understanding committees are sort of set up without an expiration date. It's just,
Well,
Just a comment.
The town charter does name the committee
it calls it a
as a
committee.
bylaw.
Codification.
Committee.
All right,
Okay, there you go.
Okay.
so
There you go.
that one's answered
I'm
for us.
overruled by
Yeah.
the rules.
No, it's a fair point, Paul. I mean,
Yeah.
and
No, that's-
Yeah.
I would have been happy either way, but if it
No,
says
okay.
it's
Yep.
the committee, then
Overruled by
we'll
the
stick with it
charter.
as a committee.
It won't be the last time.
Okay, so this needs one more,
Needs another review.
one more tune-up.
Right.
How do we want to, do you want me to do that and bring up?
Yeah, I mean, you've got the feedback that was received today. So
Yep.
you want to just take it and bring back a revised?
Bring back a final for approval
Yeah.
at the next meeting, or?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay,
And then, of course, we have to be prepared to say, how are we going to recruit these members?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So
Can I
that's
just
basic.
Yes.
ask one thing
yes.
for consideration? for these 5 members,
Yep.
you're looking for people who have experience in local government.
Mhm.
And most likely, they're probably going to be serving on a committee.
Mhm.
Is it possible to put an exemption in to allow them?
Well, I mean, there's
Yeah.
always an APP 10 exemption.
Okay.
So, I mean, if that's,
I guess
if we
Kari's
come to
asking the
it,
question of, on balance, you want people who are well, I don't know if they were saying we're active committees, but people with a lot of committee experience are likely on a committee right now, right? In some charges,
They
when
have
we expect
governmental
that.
experience.
Yeah, no, but in some committees, we actually write into the charge that members would be exempt, so it opens up the door a little bit to people who are on an existing committee. But you're right, we have an APP 10,
I mean,
but
it's, yeah,
sometimes,
it's there, so.
yeah.
I mean, I would say, if anybody's listening and you want to volunteer for this committee, or know anyone who might want to be on this committee, by all means.
Well, I was going to ask how we're going to find these people. That's one way.
I have two
That's
ideas.
one way.
Yeah.
I
That's,
have an idea.
I think we should all think of members.
Yeah, okay.
We've already
And-
received one.
Have
a
you?
volunteer card
I
based
bet
on
you I
our
know who it
agenda.
is,
So-
yeah.
yeah,
Whoa.
Good.
Yep.
All right,
good. Okay, so
okay.
I'll get this tuned up with those
On the
last
agenda.
revisions.
Okay.
And we'll get a final version, hopefully for approval next meeting.
Great.
Great,
Thank you, Cameron. Appreciate it. Thank you, Kari.
Thank you, Kari.
I know it's been a while, so we'll get it going. All right, so next on our agenda, we have... yeah. Oh, sorry. I didn't see that. So legal, it's probably, is that Diane Proctor? I don't know if, it says just League of Women Voters. So whoever that is should identify themselves.
Yeah, hi.
Oh, it's
Stefan
Stefan.
Rader.
Is that,
It appeared to me that Cameron and Wendy had their microphones on, but I don't think that was true for Kari and Paul and others. It seemed the
Okay, so
sound
the-
that I'm getting, and that's why I got the closed caption turned on, and that helps, but it's still not picking up everything people who aren't using their microphones are saying.
all right, Stefan, thanks.
Thank
That's a good reminder. We have to put these mics right next to our mouth. So, Paul, I know yours is on, so, yeah.
Can you hear me, Stefan?
Yes, I can now.
Okay,
How
I
about
swallowed
me?
it, I'm sorry.
How about me?
Yeah?
Okay.
Wait.
Okay.
If you're looking straight ahead and
Yeah.
your microphone is right in front of you, if you turn to the side, then it doesn't pick it up.
Yep.
Gotta be like,
Thanks,
Really a
Stefan.
challenge.
gotta be like
No,
right
appreciate that.
in there.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
All right, so with that, we're going to move on. We have change of manager agenda items. This is for Nosh by Concord Market, and I believe, is this Elizabeth Akers-Moore who's going to join us, Kristen?
Yes.
Oh,
Can you hear me?
hi, yeah, hi,
But
Elizabeth.
you can't see me. Hold on, maybe I can.
Yeah.
Hi. Yes, hi.
Hello.
Hi, so, hi,
So-
Elizabeth, feel free to give us an overview.
Yeah,
and-
we're just changing just the managers who are on the liquor licenses. So I think everything should be in order. Police were okay with it. Had to do background checks on everyone, and both of these guys are here. So Maddie Tillotson, there she is, and Dom Netto is also here.
Okay. It seems like both of these managers have some background with Concord Market already. Do you just want to review that?
Sure. Dom, I don't remember how long Dom's been working for me, but for a long time, and he's kind of been working his way
Hello?
through the ranks.
Hi.
Oh, hi, Dom.
Oh,
Dom,
yeah.
how long have you been working?
Okay,
I've
so-
been there for like 4.5 years, I think now. Starting as cashier, moving all the way up with some time and experience in the beer and wine department as well. So yeah.
Okay, so Elizabeth, just, we want to be careful. We've got two different applications and we're going to have
Oh,
to
sorry.
vote
Yeah,
on them
let's do it.
separately. No, so just to be clear, this is Dominic Netto, who's the manager for Concord Market LLC, is that correct?
Yes, and I think
Okay.
that's our second hearing. So if you want to
Yes.
do Maddie first. Maddie has been with me for less time, but has been in Concord her whole life and has, I don't know, Maddie, how long have you been with me? Has it been I've lost track of time.
A year and a month.
A year and a month.
Okay.
There you go. but born and bred Concordian, so grew up a couple doors away from where I am in Canantum, and has also kind of moved up in our catering department. So Nosh is, we're using as special events and catering. So Maddie is taking that over. We have a new person joining the team later this month. So yeah.
Great. And I see, we did get the information from I think the police department on background. It seems just fine. Do members of the board have any questions on this manager application for Nosh?
No.
Nope.
No. Okay. So I think we can entertain a motion. I see no hands raised.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a motion first to approve the change of manager application for Nosh by Concord Market.
Second?
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Cameron.
Aye, sorry. And then secondly, a motion to approve the change of manager application for Concord Market LLC.
Can I just ask a question? And I know Dominic was on here, Elizabeth. In the application,
Yes.
he's listed as manager. So was he previously the manager? Or is this a change in manager role? Do you just have different titles? Because it looks like he's been a manager.
It's change of manager. So he is now the manager on the liquor license, but he also, has moved up. So like he said, he went from cashier to supervisor to assistant manager. Dom, right? If I'm tracing that correct.
Yeah, and then it's currently I'm the assistant store manager.
Okay.
I wonder, is it possible for Dominic to put his camera on? It is
Oh,
somewhat
yeah.
unusual not to
Sorry,
have
I'm new to
applicants in
this.
front of you, so just.
Let me.
Working on this today.
Here we go.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Sorry,
Thank
there's
you.
Dom.
Thank
Sorry, I'm
you.
on my
Thank you.
phone. It's a little weird, but
Yep. That's okay, it's working. So Dominic, can you just remind me again, so I had this question, you're now the manager overseeing the liquor license, but your previous roles were, what were your titles there at Concord Market?
So throughout my entire time at the Concord Market, I was a cashier. Then I moved into a supervisor role, and then like a manager buyer position. And then as of January last year, I am the assistant store manager overseeing the front of house operations, including beer and wine, and also purchasing and things like that for the store.
Okay, and that's what's now giving you responsibility over the liquor license itself?
Yes, correct.
Okay, all right. It was just listed as manager, so I figured, and it looked like you were a manager since 22, so I figured
Okay,
something
yeah,
else had
sorry
changed.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Okay.
Too much nuance in our business with this sort
Yep.
of thing.
All right, thank you for that. Other questions from the board?
No.
Nope.
No? No, okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Oh, yeah, so the motion again is to approve the change of manager application for Concord Market LLC.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. That's unanimous.
Thank you. And I have to
Elizabeth.
say thank you to Kristen, who had to deal with getting all this paperwork in order. So thank you, Kristen, for listening to my questions.
Thank you all
All right,
Yeah,
and thank you,
yeah,
Maddie and
Thank you
Dominic.
so much.
Yeah,
so much.
thank you all very
Right.
much.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.
All right, moving along. Now, so next on our agenda is an update on our composting program. So, Megan, that's
Yes.
your,
Good
and there's
evening.
information in our packets.
Megan Zmuda, Deputy Town Manager, and I am joined by Interim Public Works Director Aaron McCloskey. He is just signing on, so he will join me in just a moment. But if you recall, in June, we came before you to kind of do a wrap up on some town meeting items, and we discussed the article regarding townwide ratepayer composting program feasibility analysis. And at that time, we said, the town manager said would come back with a scope for your consideration. So in your packet is a memo from myself and Aaron McCloskey, and we're talking through the work plan that we're proposing for you this evening. And if there is feedback tonight or at a subsequent meeting or in writing, I'm happy to take it. But basically what we're looking to do based on the 2026 annual town meeting is that voters approved a motion urging the select board to request that the town manager investigate and report on the feasibility of adopting and offering a townwide ratepayer composting program as proposed by the Concord Carlisle High School Sunrise Movement Club. So we have the scope of work here, and we are looking at 3 approaches. So approach number 1 is, I think, what was most closely described in the town meeting article, which is a town administered ratepayer program. So it would evaluate the feasibility of this type of composting program, would be identifying operational, administrative, financial, and staffing requirements associated with this approach and all the other approaches. The second is the preferred vendor partnership. This is probably, if you were listening to some, or obviously you were listening, but at some of the town meeting and hearings, there was a lot of discussion about the Bedford approach, where the town of Bedford has a preferred vendor partnership with a company. They are not handling the complaints or the billing, but they have a relationship with the town. So we'll be evaluating that approach as approach 2. And then we also added in an alternative municipal strategy to really enhance the promotion of existing composting opportunities. So this is just another way that the town can kind of encourage more composting. The 3 alternatives will be looked at across 5 different evaluation criteria. We'll be looking at administrative feasibility, operational feasibility, financial feasibility, resident accessibility and participation, and also implementation considerations. The project team is really going to be led by myself and Aaron McCloskey. We'll be, reaching out to some of our peer municipalities. We'll be using the research that the Sunrise Club students put together. There's also been other research put together by other committee members in town that we will start from, so we're not starting from zero here. And we, if we can agree on the scope, or even if it's adjusted over the next couple of weeks, we're hoping to have a report to the select board by the end of October. Happy to take any questions or feedback.
So I went through this, Megan. I thought it was quite extensive. I thought you did a really good job working through this. I just questioned whether you could get it done by October.
It's a lot here.
And
I think
it's a lot.
I think that phase 1, existing conditions, Public Works has all of that information, and they will be able to kind of quickly put that together.
Yep.
Benchmarking and market research, I do think some of this has been done, and it needs to be kind of just put together in this report. And I think with feasibility analysis, we're really trying to understand what would the impact on these different programs be for town staff, on our finances, on our personnel. So I think we can pull this together, and then really phase 4 is the report. So I think we have a lot of it already, and it's kind of compiling it and making a recommendation, presenting the findings to you for your own consideration.
Can you put so I thought the Sunrise Club was going to do some of the work.
The idea was to ask the town manager to complete an analysis, right?
Oh, but I'm just asking if they can help if you need.
I haven't been in touch
If you
with
need
them.
any arms and legs.
Yeah, this summer is harder to get in touch with the team, and we usually go through the superintendent to speak with the students and or the teachers, and the teachers are not really as available, of course, in the summer, but we will build off of their analysis for sure.
It's probably there could be some outreach on the alternative, asking the students to do some of that. Could be a project for them,
it might
right.
be kind of interesting to have if they wanted to.
Well,
So
to
Something
expand
they
that,
were kind of passionate about, so if they want to
Certainly.
do some of the arms
help
and
with-
leg work or something, I think if it can be useful,
I was going to expand on that a little bit. I think it might be beneficial to the project. You have a project team, and it's identified here, but expanding the project team at least to keep other people in the loop as this develops, and maybe it's the students or maybe it's others. I think what you don't want to do is get to the end of this and come up with a feasibility and surprise anybody with it. I think involving some of the other stakeholders during the process, especially that the Sunrise Committee, might be very helpful and ensure the credibility of the analysis, even though you're doing most of the work. And yeah, if they can do some of the work, that's fine. But I think involving them in some capacity would be helpful.
You may also be able to engage with Concord Can, who may have people who are willing to, roll up their sleeves and help.
Well, at least to keep them in the
Yeah,
loop. They're
yeah.
stakeholders in this, and it's not just the select board. There's going to be others who are going to be looking at this. I do have 2 questions. The alternative, it wasn't clear, so it seems like the alternative comes into play if approaches 1 and 2 are infeasible, but yet it looks like you're analyzing them in parallel, which seems to me...
I think both can be true. If options 1 and 2 don't work, then it's a third option. But of course, it could be added on to 1 and 2 as well.
So to the point about, so you're going to be comparing these alternatives, and there are lots of criteria, the different aspects of feasibility. Do you have, what are the criteria you're going to be using? Have you thought about that? I know what the elements are, but is there weighting as financial and operate? I'm just trying to imagine how you're going to evaluate the different alternatives. Have you thought about, explicit criteria for how you're going to do that comparison?
Well, we'll be looking at the dollar amount for the
Mm-hmm.
cost. We'll be looking at the hour amount for staff. I think those are pretty critical pieces. And we'll be looking at, for accessibility and performance. When we talk to other communities, we'll be trying to understand what their rate of subscribers is,
Adoption.
and try to pull in as many metrics as possible. But as for, are we weighting, financial and operational, one of them heavier? I haven't gotten to that level of detail yet. If the board has, thoughts on that, I'm happy to take that. Or maybe that could be a way to, while we're kind of engaging with others, could kind of.
I think it's worth thinking about. You heard some of that during town meeting, sort of the balance of staff time and financial versus the desirability in the community to move this forward. So, I think it's worth thinking about how you're going to compare the 3. Is there a matrix? Is there a weighting?
There will be a matrix,
Yeah.
certainly, yes.
Yeah, those are the 2 I had.
Dean, did you have any thoughts?
No, I just chipped in that I thought Concord Can may have some, some ability to help, and they also certainly do want to be kept in the loop, as Paul points out. They're significant stakeholders in this kind of thing.
So somewhat along those same lines, it's more just a question about a checkpoint. So I know that the Climate Action Committee and the Finance Committee were very eager to support this project too. I just wonder if there's sort of a point, and maybe it's the same as just doing sort of a status update. Do we engage the Climate Action Committee or the Finance Committee in this process at all prior to making the final recommendations? I guess that would be the other question. Or maybe it's just one meeting and we invite people.
Well, I think Megan does make status reports to the Climate Action Committee, and this will certainly be
Right.
on your report, how you're doing. So they'll be kept in the loop.
Yeah, I think one thing I'm trying to think about here is this is a feasibility analysis that staff is going to be putting together based on our kind of operational understanding of these different alternatives. It is not this is the policy that is going to be adopted, right? Like that level of community discussion will happen once it leaves my hands. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's so feedback on the report itself. I think, thinking about how that can be helpful in drafting this feasibility analysis, but I think the larger kind of engagement piece will come once the board reviews it and decides how they want to proceed.
But you will be making recommendations based on, that's in the scope. So, that's sort of
Sure.
starting.
That was the ask, right? That was the town meeting ask to have the select board ask the town manager to draft a report.
But I get it too. You're giving yourself a tight time frame, And if we finish the report in October, then it's back up to the select board to get more community input, and we have to decide how to proceed. There's going to obviously probably be, if the recommendations proceed, there's probably financial implications, staffing implications, depending on what the solution is. And those are all things that we need to weigh in, and that's an opportunity.
It'll have budgeting
For the community,
implications.
yeah. Right.
But just the last point, I don't want to beat a horse here, but the stakeholder engagement is, if you can do that during the project, it's not a long project, but several check-ins, it's supposed to wait to the end. I think that'd be beneficial.
Well, I think like Dean said, the Climate Action Committee,
Yep.
there'll be regular
Yep.
updates. I think that's a
Yeah.
good place for
Megan
those.
provides regular updates
Right.
to the climate
Maybe
action.
there
That's
could be
good.
if I speak to the chair of the Climate Action Committee, there could be an agenda that
Yeah.
kind of goes over this in more detail, and we can invite other stakeholders to
Yeah,
kind
I
of
think that's fair.
hear where we are. That might be it.
Yeah.
And don't forget the Sunrise Club. They originated this. They're gonna
Yeah.
they're gonna have several eyes on this.
Yep. Okay. Any other thoughts? No? I'm going to just ask members of the community, if you have questions, raise your hand, just as a reminder. I don't see any raised hands. So, Megan, thank you very much. I think you did
Thank you.
a
Yes,
good
really-
job
really
putting
good
a lot
plan.
of
I think there's a
thoughtful.
hand
Oh,
raised
sorry,
and-
Michael, come on up. And of course, you have to speak really close to the microphone to make sure it's on.
Michael Williams, I'm a member of the school committee, not speaking for the school committee. I know we had the Sunrise Group presenting at the school committee. I know the advisor and the team are interested, and I know they've got a body of data that they'd certainly be willing to supply, so I would have to reach out to Dr. Hunter and the advisor to get that information as part of the mix to answer both of your questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, good ideas. All right, so now, moving on our agenda, we're doing good on time. We're going to move on to our payment in lieu of taxes for the solar expansion at Walden Street, and I see Jennifer here. Jennifer, do you want to come up to the table? And is Jason online?
The guy who knows all the information, he's logging on.
Jason is. All right, and then Kristen, are we going to, do you have a presentation, or are we just going to walk through some of the materials that are in the packet?
I just walk through the materials, answer questions as needed. This is more of a, it's an amendment to a previously accepted pilot. So we're just changing a few of the terms in order to expand areas.
So sorry, this is a payment in lieu of taxes,
Yeah.
meaning this project or this solar
So there's
by
two-
law is not subject to taxes?
Well,
There's two components to this. There's a land lease for the solar field. That's not in question. That's not up for renewal. That's already in place. This is a payment in lieu of taxes for, it fixed an annual payment for the vendor instead of relying on valuation of property. So it's in place of the personal property tax that would otherwise be levied, where the equipment has generally a declining value. But this fixes the payment that we receive for the duration of the contract.
Okay, so on the land lease, they pay taxes, or?
I believe it's like a $1 lease to have the space on the landfill.
Got it. Okay, and then so the property tax, so if I see it correctly, there's $6.7 million of property?
yes.
Yes, that's the current value of the equipment that they're planning on having
Right.
at that site.
And so if it was taxed at normal rates,
$12.20.
What
That
would
would be 81 grand, 82,000.
so it'd be $82,000?
Right, so this is about 50%.
So we're accepting 40?
For the duration of 20 years, so if you were to amortize it out in 20 years, the value
Would go
of that
from
property
82
would be
theoretically
down
to zero? Okay,
Yeah.
so it's
So
a
it-
sliding scale.
Yeah, so this makes it a fixed payment.
Got it.
And it guarantees us and it guarantees them.
Okay, so the rationale behind 40 is half of 80
I think the
over the
rationale
20-year
behind 40
decline
is yeah, it's the value, and it's
would be the
based on
average annual
size.
Yeah, I mean, we're giving up a little bit of the cost of money, right? Because we'd rather have the bigger payments earlier. But okay, and so this
I
is
prefer to
something
have
that was
an idea.
negotiated with.
It was presented, and it's a reasonable accommodation. Originally, when the agreement was signed, it was at 40, and because we were putting, and I'm going to let Jason take over here, the installation was curbed due to the site.
Oh, the original. So this is a 20-year-old
Yes.
setup. So we didn't fully implement all the solar we could have at the time 20 years ago.
13 years ago.
13 years ago.
Yeah.
It was originally a 20-year contract, wasn't it? So
Yes.
we've just...
So it was originally a 20-year contract. We're 13 years in, and now we're extending it another 20 years.
Okay.
And there's new construction, replacements, and expansion.
So that $40,000 amount was in the agreement, you're just extending it.
The $40,000 amount was in the original agreement, but because of the limitations of the site, they were not able to install as much power or as many panels.
Yeah.
Jason can fix this one because he was here.
Wendy, is it okay if I?
Yes, I'm sorry, Jason. I wasn't... Yeah, go
No,
right
that's
ahead.
okay.
Sorry, Jason.
I just wanted to mention to Cameron's point that the value of the battery probably shouldn't be considered when you consider the tax impact or rate, because the battery is necessary only because the amount of solar that we're putting on the site. We're trying to get as much solar as we possibly can on that site, which is about 4 megawatts. But we can't, unfortunately, take 4 megawatts because of how much solar.
Oh, Jason, I don't...
Solar.
looks like we
As part of
lost.
this project.
Yep.
Oh, can you not hear me?
No. You know
No,
what?
we
You just
can now.
froze for 10
I
seconds.
apologize.
No, that's okay.
So anyway, the battery is on this site to allow us to accept all of the solar and not really. So basically, the goal was to get as much solar as possible, and the battery enables us to do that. So the solar is what the pilot was based on originally, and what was extended to the project for this new version.
So Jason, at the obviously the batteries you just said is helping with our solar saturation. So who's going to control when that battery gets charged? Is that part of your arrangement with Kearsarge?
Correct. So the vendor they have a third party that has a 24/7 network operations center to monitor the battery health and to call for peaks when they plan on it. But basically it will be programmed ahead of time to absorb the solar over a particular limit. And then anything in excess of that will go straight into the battery. And then the battery will discharge later when the grid needs more power to make room for the solar the next day.
All right. Which addresses our infrastructure issue.
It does.
Which is
It's
critical.
helpful.
So, very good.
So I guess just like, is 40,000 like what they offered and we're just sort of like, we accept that? Or is this like, hey, after much negotiation, or like, how do we feel about 40,000? Like,
What I can tell you just one thing real quick, which is that the amount was negotiated last time, and they took the same base amount per megawatt of solar on the property and continued it. And then remember that the developer, is going to get the money that they pay in the pilot from the ratepayers of Concord. So, if you raise the pilot to $50,000, then that difference is made up through the amount of the amount that we pay for electricity when we buy it, which is then delivered to customers. So, it's
so they
not
would
like
change the rates based on. So we don't like they control the rates.
well, they're selling us electricity, right? But yeah, so I think that from their perspective, they said, well, the town negotiated a PPA rate per megawatt of solar, and so we'll honor that rate as we look to extend this project and enlarge the size. And so they basically used our multiplier that we asked for the first time to extend that to this project. And so Does that answer your question?
So just, Jason, when I was looking at this, we're getting 160% increase in capacity through this, but our reimbursement's going up 155%. So it's close to being proportionate to what the original calculation was.
Yeah.
And that was without the battery, so
Right.
sort of in line with that original contract assumption.
And I think Jason's point about the battery is we actually need it.
We need it.
We can't do the project without it. So,
Right.
giving them some relaxation on the taxes for that is reasonable because it's our need that we're putting this
But
in.
how does the rates, how does it work? We have a contract rate with them sometimes electric rates change, right? I mean, how does that work for?
So, for example, I'll talk about the existing PPA that we had there. So it was a fixed rate for the life of the agreement. So for that 20-year period, we negotiated a rate with Kearsarge to pay. And that was contingent upon the financial expectations that were made when they entered into the agreement. So basically, a developer comes in and does their due diligence to estimate what the cost is going to be for them to construct the site. They're going to look at the financing options they have to get capital to invest in the site, and then they're going to do some math to figure out what their rate of return is and what they're offering to whoever's buying that power. So they do this in investor-owned utility areas, they do this in municipal light plant territories. And then, so let's say all those financial assumptions pan out, then the rate is what is planned. But let's say we say, you know what, we only want the solar panels to run on Mondays. That's going to change the financial returns that they're using to calculate for their investments and for their bonding and everything. So they obviously can't, honor a price if we're not honoring what we are claiming to buy, right? So like both parties enter, they sign a letter of intent to say, here's the scope, here's what we require, here's what you require. As long as those assumptions stay the same, then the price is the price. If those assumptions change, then you have to address that during the contract.
Yeah. So we have a fixed rate, assuming that we do buy the power in the days and as much as we say we're going to buy. I mean, obviously, if we say, oh yeah, it turns out no, we don't want that anymore, then they can change the rates. But otherwise, they can't just come and say, hey, the rates are changing this year.
Correct. Once the contract is signed.
They also have an underlying assumption that this is the pilot that we've agreed to.
Right.
So they're trying to make a long-term arrangement for the price of the power, and baked into that is the long-term assumption of what they're paying in the underlying pilot.
And then,
So you change the pilot, they'll come
Yeah.
back
No,
and
that's
say,
fine.
this
It's
is
just
going to
very
be the
helpful
new,
to see how
this will
all
be
the
the new
pieces
number.
come together. Yep, that's fine.
and Jason,
I
are
got
they have the RECs, right? They own the RECs?
No, we will have the option to buy the RECs associated with this project
Okay.
based on a formula. So we will basically look at the price that we can get RECs on the open market, the price that we can get the RECs for this project, and ideally we'd like to take the RECs associated with this project. So there's the price for power and the price for RECs, and it's tied to the market price for RECs.
Okay, so we have the option. So, okay, great.
Exactly.
Excellent. Good to hear. Thank you.
Got it. And the issue, like, hey, sometimes we generate too much solar, but we've got a battery now, so we can tell them,
Exactly. Tell them not.
store it up.
Right. That's what we needed for our
Yeah, so
infrastructure.
just to put a finer point on that, this is something that we at the town meeting had approved several years ago, is that we would pay for a battery.
Right.
These people are going to pay for the battery because we need it for our infrastructure.
Right.
So they're paying for the battery that we would otherwise have been investing in, and that bond authorization is still available, and we haven't used it yet. So this is a good thing in that regard.
Okay, great.
Good.
Paul, any questions?
No?
No? Dean, you got yours,
No,
Cameron?
I'm good.
You're all set?
I'm good.
Is there anyone in the audience who has a question? Raise your hand if you're remote. Seeing none. All right, I
I'm
believe
gonna make a
that
motion.
we need a motion.
I'm going to make a
Yes.
motion to
Excellent.
approve the amended and reinstated agreement for payment in lieu of taxes for real property and personal property between Kearsarge, Concord, and the town of Concord.
Second?
Second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank
Great. Thank you,
for
Jennifer. Thank you,
answering all my
Jason,
questions. Appreciate it.
for being here. That's great. All right. We're 10 minutes ahead of time. All set. Thank you, Jennifer. Jess. All right, so we are moving on to the town manager's annual review. And for those who are remote, just so you're aware, we have a hard copy package in front of us that I don't know about anybody else, but I haven't had a chance to look at it at all. So Jess, you're going to start with an overview and walk us through the document that you provided.
Yep, let me just get my screen here so I can see what I'm doing.
Great, thank you.
Okay, excellent. Good evening, everyone. Jessica Porter, Assistant Town Manager and HR Director for the town. I'm pleased tonight to present to you the Town Manager's Performance Review for fiscal year 26. As outlined in the memo provided in your packet, the composite evaluation that I'm going to present tonight includes ratings and comments submitted by current Select Board members Paul Bohm, Mary Hartman, Cameron McKenna, and Wendy Rovelli, as well as input from former Select Board member Mark Howell. New this year is also a 360 review process and comment summary. The 360 reviews were completed by 11 of the town manager's direct reports, which is all 10 members of the senior management team, as well as the communications director. Also new this year, we changed the rating scale to a 5-point system. So the review that you're looking at this evening shows the categories as 1 through 5, 1 being not achieved or unsatisfactory, and then working up to 5, which is exceptional achievement. This is more consistent with our rating scales on other systems. You may recall in the past, we've always had a 3-point system. We did change it this year to a 5-point system. So the composite rating for completion of the fiscal 26 goals is a 3.48. You'll see there are goals in 5 different categories outlined on the slides: organizational resilience, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, effective and transparent governance, financial resiliency, and strategic planning. And I'll walk you through each of those categories individually, as well as provide some sample comments and feedback on each of them. So under organizational resilience, the town manager was rated a 3.2 out of 5. You'll see there's comments there regarding management of staff and recruiting effort successes, also retaining staff, and improvements have also been made in creation of various metrics tracking employee recruitment and retention. So those were some of the comments. There's a full comment summary that was passed out to you on paper this evening as well. I also want to note that all of the documents passed out tonight will be available on the town website, hopefully tomorrow. On diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging goal, there was a 3.05 out of 5. Again, you'll see some comments there are some looking for more opportunities and thorough articulation of strategies for leveraging diversity initiatives. Progress has been ongoing with policies and practices, which should be continued. More work to be done to determine how that can create business value and incorporate best practices for town operation. And then comments regarding Carrie having been a strong supporter of DEI programs and promoting accomplishments of staff and compassion for members in the community, as we've had incidents of hate and bias over the past year. Under effective, transparent, and governance, the town manager was rated a 4.33 out of 5. Notable comments were the redesign of the website and the addition of the biweekly reporting. Overall improvement on written communications throughout fiscal 26. The communication newsletter has been improved and contains a significant amount of information. And overall, the enhancements to the website have been well received, particularly important notices, events, and project updates are being more prominently displayed. And again, the monthly project status report as well has been a welcome addition. Under the financial resiliency goal, the score is a 3.6 out of 5. Noted was the update of the cost allocations to the enterprise and revolving accounts. Capital plan needs a bit more visibility. Looking towards a 10-year capital plan will be key as we get into an era of looking at major facilities project planning. Again, more comments about needing to do some more on capital needs and looking at tax implications and investments under different scenarios. And then a note on the new financial policies, which were adopted in fiscal 26, and reviewing of key fund balances resulted in transfer of funds and avoiding tax increases related to debt. And under the strategic planning category, the score is a 3.2 out of 5. Key planning documents need to be integrated and prioritized. Stormwater implementation was noted as a big win. The support for MCI planning and the relationship with DCAM has been very effective and successful. And developing a tracker containing a consolidated list and links to all major planning documents is a good first step. Annual review, prioritization, and validation across plans is a future goal. So that was the first section of the form, which was the goals.
And just to be
Ravelli,
clear, the 360 review for staff, they weren't scoring the goals, right? So those were all comments from select board members,
correct.
right?
And it's a sampling of comments. The comments in there are summarized, some are made shorter, paraphrased, but the actual verbatim comments are in the packet that I presented tonight that, again, will be available to the public. This is just to put every comment
Representative
verbatim.
examples, right? Yeah,
Yes,
I think you said
exactly,
that. Yep.
exactly.
Yep.
Did you wish to entertain any conversation at this point on the goal section? You want me to do the whole presentation and then talk about it as a
No,
whole?
why don't you go through the whole
Okay.
presentation?
All right. So the second part of the evaluation form is the general leadership. This section here is where we did have the feedback for the 360. Essentially, the persons assigned to do the 360 evaluation were given the same comments, just slightly reworded to say, answer this as a member of the management team or as one of the town manager's reports versus the questions on your form, which were all based on the board perspective. But otherwise, they were the same questions. And again, this was also moved to a 5-point system, with 1 being a below expectations and unsatisfactory, up to the high of 5, which is excellent and highly commendable. So under evaluation of general leadership, the board's composite rating of the town manager was a 3.9 out of 5. The 360 feedback was a 4.42 out of 5. And again, you can see the 6 categories listed there, and we have illustrated the side-by-side for what the board's composite rating was on each category, and then the 360 composite rating. And similar to the goals section, I'll now walk through each category one by one so you can see a sampling of comments as well. And the comments in this section are all select board comments. The 360 comments are not part of these slides, but again, they are verbatim in the packets that I passed out tonight. There was pretty much similarities between the comments. There wasn't a great discrepancy in feedback from the two groups. So on board support, 4.05 out of 5, and the 360 review is a 4.55 out of 5. You'll see there's a lot of comments there about Carrie's relationship with board members, communications and responsiveness. Openness, transparency, honesty is a theme that is recurring. Keeping the board informed and having an open door policy is also noted as a strength, and being upfront with the board when delays are identified, and facilitates agreement on changes and milestones. For overall leadership in this category, the board was a 3.87 out of 5. The 360 review was a 4.38% out of 5. Again, a lot of discussion about some of the complexities and operational matters throughout fiscal 26 that took priority. One comment was that they'd like to see more active participation in planning discussions because of the broad and unique perspective that the town manager brings that the board members don't always have. Again, leadership is one of the town manager's strengths, both in the personal modeling of civility and transparency, as well as the experience demonstrated when solving unanticipated situations. And the town manager also promotes civil discourse and professional decorum and is calm in her interactions and allows people to speak and be heard. Under management, the board rated a 3.95 out of 5. The 360 was a 4.25 out of 5. Again, a lot of recurring themes here, with Carrie being a solid and respected leader, consistent and empowers staff to perform. It's noted that the staff respect and depend on the town manager for support and counsel, and trust is evident. Comment that they would like to see the town manager and the rest of the organization continue to find ways to use best practices and leveraging IT and business innovation to be more efficient and effective, and notes that the town manager has established a strong management team and is well respected by staff and members of the community. Under finance, the board rated her a 3.76 out of 5, and the 360 was a 4.4 out of 5. Again, comments about strides being made in several areas. Again, the indirect cost allocations, grant fundings, reserve account funding, free cash, budget tightening, and staff size. Big theme was meeting the FinCom guideline, which we all know was no small task. And Carrie listens to the constituents. The commitment to achieving FinCom guidelines, again, is mentioned. Finding ways to drive productivity and improve the cost to value equation. And notes again on the capital budget being well presented and identifying all offsetting source of funding for planned capital improvements. Under communications, the board was a 3.73 out of 5, and the 360 was a 4.39 out of 5. Again, discussion about expanded town management communications with the public, high responsiveness to citizen requests and information. Public presentations are fact-based and analytical. Town manager also demonstrates clear, accountable communications, highlights collaboration across the organization and community, and the town manager is always well prepared and commands respect from others based on her level of knowledge, expertise, and honesty. Personal characteristics, the board came in at a 4.04 out of 5, and the 360 was a 4.51 out of 5. Another theme here, again, was about the town manager's personal character and work ethic are excellent, always looking to offer help and looking for solutions. Would like to see more of a can-do attitude and proactivity through some of the budget opportunities and capital investment planning. Town manager makes herself available to staff, residents, and town committee members as needed, and she's always thoughtful when considering options for solutions and seeks out the opinions of others. So here I've just added some general overall comments. Again, not 100% of the comments, a sampling and some paraphrasing, but mentions again the cost allocation, stormwater utility, transition with the new CFO being retained, some of the other organizational challenges within the community, notably the anti-Semitism, as well as some strategy challenges with MCI and roads, and of course budget and economic uncertainties. Making progress on some of the key strategic areas like cell phone coverage and the roads projects. Success was achieved in being awarded numerous grants and implementing some key operational programs. And again, comments about the strong management team being well positioned for fiscal 27. Some additional strengths and overall opportunities. Excellent collaborator and communicates upward and downward within the organization. Would like to see her move from a passive approach to a strategic thinking to a more active role in helping shape the future of the town. Some more emphasis on long-range planning and integration of the many planning documents we have on our shelves. Additional opportunities to communicate strategic vision and agenda as the town has unprecedented opportunities to address long-standing facilities issues. And long-term plans for municipal facilities progress. Effort will need to be made to reassess existing debt obligations and create a sustainable strategy for maintaining the long-term debt. And last slide, the overall composite ratings. So the goals for the board was a 3.48. Again, the 360 group did not rate on the goals. And under general leadership, the board composite was a 3.9, and the 360 composite was a 4.42.
Okay. Wow, that's a lot to cover. I'll just note, and Carrie, thank you for all your contributions over the last year. It's been a very, very busy, long year. We've had a lot going on with MCI, a lot to achieve through the financial guidelines process. It was no easy feat. And just a lot going on in town. And you've been a constant leader, very passionate, very patient, and flexible with the select board and everything we dream up and ask you to do. There's a lot with that. I also just see this is the first time that staff have had the opportunity to provide feedback, and I think that's actually a wonderful enhancement to the 360 view process. You know, the ratings are different, and I think that happens when you're rating, when you're viewing someone as a manager than from a peer or a strategic thinking. So I think that's reflected there, but I think it also shows how well you are respected from your staff as well. And I know I haven't had time to read these comments, and everyone else is looking through them. I need my time to go through all this. Just so
It's a lot, but it's good.
We
It's
all know
good.
that. So, but I think it's been a very good process. I'm just going to turn it over to other board members. Do you want to comment on the
I'm going
process?
to pass because this year was not
is
my
new for-
year.
yes, it was.
I was not
Yes.
in. I was not in
Yeah.
up close and personal view, but I do think that the town has had a good year in terms of its capacity to move forward through a lot of challenges, and I think Carrie's had a lot to do with that. So I'll just leave that there as my initial comment.
Yeah, the town is in good shape, and it's not perfect, and I think you're moving forward to quickly correcting the things that need correction. I think the last year, combination of really short-term imperatives in terms of financial planning, et cetera, and long-term strategic planning have really come to reality. I mean, that's not to say we haven't always thought about long-term, but you know, MCI and other properties, a land use working group, and all the moving parts, it was really created one of the more complex dynamics that I remember in town. I think you've navigated those quite well. They're not always easy to navigate those, and you've done those with good communication, good collaboration. So, good year. Good, and we're in great shape.
Listen, I think, in some ways, I think it is almost, there was a little bit of a tale of two halves to the year, right? So for me, when I sort of look back on the 12 months, we kind of started with some challenges, right? So we had CFO turnover, we had some audit challenges, some of the material weaknesses. We had some challenges like the Route 2 thing or the disposal stuff and all that. One thing I've learned about you, Carrie, is you keep plugging away. So I will say, but in a good way and in sincerity. And so, okay, you kept going. And the second half of the year, I think, got better as we went on. As we brought in Jennifer, we tackled some of the financial challenges. We tackled some of the issues that needed to be addressed, and onward and upward. So I would praise you for just continuing to to work through some of those challenges.
Thank you. I did not provide or prepare any written comments. I think last year at this session, I made some written comments, and I think everybody, it was sort of like deer in the headlights because you have a lot of information coming. So I would like to thank the board for the opportunity to serve the community. I hear for sure there were at least two halves to the year. There may have been more than two halves. In total, it felt like a really good year, but it was very, very challenging at times. I've had the benefit of having the comments from everybody for a couple of weeks, so it's not new to me. But one thing that really struck me was sort of the uniformity in the comments that were received. Like some of the numerical grading was different in certain places, but I really appreciate the fact that everybody coalesced on the need for strategic planning. I feel like I've talked about that a lot during the year, and it's been a lot of talk and maybe less action, but I feel like that's gaining some traction, so I do appreciate that. I do appreciate that the senior management team had the opportunity to participate. I want to make it clear to you and the public, I held on my reviews of all of the managers until the 360 period was closed, just so there was no opportunity for
She did. I will confirm that.
Make a claim. So that meant my reviews were a little bit later than they had been. But
I do appreciate everybody's looking at this from different angles. The senior management team, as I mentioned to Paul earlier today, they have more data points, more touch points with me because they work with me. But there are things that are important to them that are different than what is important to you and members of the community. So I do think it was very valuable to have them weigh in. I think if they weighed in on goals, that might have been informative as well, and maybe that's something for next year. But again, thank you. I know this is a lot of work for you, and I appreciate the effort that you put into this. And I really enjoy working for the town. I'm finishing up 10 years here, and I hope to be here for a good long time. And it's been a lot of fun. A lot of work too.
We have some exciting times ahead.
We do.
We
I
absolutely
also
do.
want to thank Jessica for putting this together.
My pleasure.
The implementation of the 360, I think, was important. As I mentioned earlier, those are the folks that work with you more closely day to day. Not to put any greater weighting on their scores, but the fact that I think your scores are high, and so they know you better than we do. I think, and I think that's good to combine both of those.
Yeah. So great work, and it's really been a good year, and we have another tough year ahead of us, so more to follow. I just want to comment for the public. There will be no opportunity to take public comments on Kerry's review this evening. Our next steps are we will be meeting in executive session in our next meeting to talk about compensation as a result of these review, and in the meantime, everyone will read more of these materials, and we'll have that discussion next week. That compensation decision will be announced at the regular scheduled meeting next week, 2 weeks from now. So thank you, Jess, for putting that together,
pleasure.
and thanks for all the staff who also participated in the review this year. I think it was a big enhancement.
So
thank
just
you.
one comment about
Yes.
this executive session in 2 weeks. I said at
Yes.
the outset of the meeting that I'm available. I am available, but I am not physically present. So an executive session may create a challenge for being, unless I can join by Zoom, that would be fine, but I'm just
I
not
didn't know
physically in
that.
town.
Okay, all right.
Can we do that?
Yeah, I
Yes,
see
we
why
can.
not.
We just have to manage it very
Very
carefully and
okay.
tightly.
I will
Yeah.
I will tell you that Zooms and select board meetings are not fun, especially when you've got to butt in and Wendy says, "Hold on."
But now we can't hear you.
Now you can hear me.
Great.
All
Thank
right.
you.
All right, well, thank you. All right.
Thank you.
All right, moving on in our agenda. So our next item is, guess what? Select board goals. All right, so we are taking the next two sections of our goals, and we're going to do what we did last time, which is just go through goal by goal and provide feedback on the goals themselves. And I actually just want to ask Kristen one thing. I noticed that we went in I don't know if actually you can do this. In some of these goals, the printed version didn't print the full goal itself. I have a full copy of them, but it's really, actually, Cameron, it's some of the section of the items that you had. So I don't know if, Kristen, can you pull up the Excel spreadsheet that I gave you and share
It
that?
looks like the word
Do you have
wrap.
it?
The entire spreadsheet or the packet portion?
Well, just the packet portion, but the problem is the PDF, it's only showing a part of the goal. Yeah, but yes. So bring up the Excel spreadsheet, but just that portion that we reviewed, yeah. So we can see the full comment. It's, I think,
Not this, correct?
yeah, it's that, wherever we are right now in that, we're starting with the effective and transparent government. Yeah, just that. So, yeah, let me just have you just check. If you go down to the enhanced economic
Yeah.
vitality
Yeah,
section.
somehow
Is that the Excel spreadsheet?
No, that's the PDF.
Okay, it's not going to work in the PDF. You actually have to look at the full spreadsheet. But guess what? I can read it when we get to it because I have the full text.
Yeah, there's a couple
Yeah.
of spots there where
Right.
the wrap text is
Yeah, it
not
just, yeah.
wrapping.
Okay, all right, so I guess Kristen will bring this up. she's getting there. So this section, and actually just before as we go through this, we've had 2 sessions on the goals. I've taken notes on all of these. My hope is that once we get through this section, what I'll do is consolidate all the comments that we've got and then have another updated section. So I've been keeping track of everyone's notes, and we'll have a full revised version in a future meeting, and then we'll go through those at that point. Okay, so I think, Kristen's got it. All right, so starting at the top, effective and transparent government. So, yes. So this first one was one that I drafted, and it was really about strategic plans. We've had a lot of different discussions around planning, long-term planning, et cetera. I sort of wrote this up as sort of a goal around, for what I'd like to see is that for the committees that have strategic plans, that they look at those plans and this year identify what the key activities are in 2027, so that they're looking at their plans, identify the key activities for this year, and then also be mindful of the FY28 budget, so that those same committees look at what are the things that are in the plan that we need to be thinking about from a capital planning or operating budget perspective. So we're thinking forward a little bit and making sure that we identify those. This really, it's not all committees, it's just those committees that have a plan. And I'll also note that Carrie did distribute, I'm going to say, the plan of plans. So we have a spreadsheet that's got all the plans. Right. So that was my idea here. I guess the other thought was, and it's really carrying the theme that what Carrie started to say around strategic planning. The last item was trying to think a little bit more around how we can do some of that strategic planning. We have a 10-year long-term plan that's going to be budgeted for FY28, and I was trying to capture something around, we should start thinking about what we want that plan to be. But I'm actually open to the select board's comments about what we want to do this year around strategic planning in general. Like we don't, so I'm just open to that. We're all thinking about planning, whether it's long-term capital planning, but I'm open to your thoughts on what we want to do beyond sort of the committee goals, but specifically around strategic planning. We've already earlier discussed creating a building committee that will do some capital planning. I think that's the most critical thing.
If we can come up with some agreement on what a committee like that would look like, and then establish it, that would be a win. But we just have to understand whether it's for a building committee or a larger capital planning or however we want. I would think that would be forward progress.
Right.
Yeah, but before we get to that, so that's new and it's quite specific.
Yep.
I think the initiative, at least 1 and 2 here, pulling together the up-to-date strategic plans and pulling from them the really important action items and putting some budgets around, I think that's a really important step, because it's the only way we're going to start to look at cross plans.
Yeah.
And we need to do that, because I don't want to start something new without pulling that together. So I think 1 and 2 are really pretty high priority, along with I think that the building committee, which whether we call that capital planning or building, I think that is new and important moving forward.
Yeah, and we reviewed that, so I'll beef that up, and maybe we drop what's listed as 3 here.
I didn't understand number 3 here totally. I'm best for,
it was starting to anticipate our long-term, the 10-year strategic plan that we have to put together and start really focusing on strategic planning. So I don't, maybe that's not the thing to focus on right now, and it really is. We have a lot of work to do, and I think the capital planning of the building committee, thinking longer, starting to work on that issue is probably more important.
So when the 10-year, this is sort of Envision Concord.
Right, so we should be coming up with starting the next 10-year plan.
Envision Concord update.
Envision Concord, right.
But I'm not sure we can do that without looking at the pieces first. There's 2 ways of looking at it.
Yeah.
You put together the Uber plan, then you fill in with specific plans. And kind of we've done that, but now we have to do reverse engineering. We have to look at the specific plans and pull them into a larger plan.
Right, and we have a couple new plans in process also. So we have the transportation strategy, we have a historic districts mission, we have an
Yep.
open space and recreation plan, I think that's in process. So we have a lot of new things to work on too. So I guess I'm sort of volunteering that we should focus on 1 and 2 in this particular goal, I think for now.
I think those are the
Okay.
right two
Right.
objectives. Got to get those done.
Okay. Cameron,
Yeah,
did you
well,
want-
I'm trying to understand the scope of this because, I mean, I'm just a little worried that, like, I mean, you can try to develop a plan for the whole world. I'm not, because there's like, hey, I want to know like where we might want to spend some money, but that's different from,
No,
like,
I guess,
hey, you know,
Yeah.
what's sort of a, like, this is like overall plan or plan with each
so I
committee.
guess.
So I'm
it's-
trying to get the
yeah.
scope of it.
So for 1 and 2, and let's assume it's 1 and 2, we have a lot of committees that are responsible for different strategic plans. We have Climate Action Plan committees to the Climate Action Plan. We have the Recreation Commission responsible for the Recreation Plan. The idea is
Transportation,
make sure that
housing,
once you've
et cetera,
built
et
this
cetera.
plan,
Yes.
you're reviewing your plan. And then identifying from that plan what you're doing this year as it relates to that plan, and then what are you anticipating doing in the year ahead, in the next year. And the next year may have some cost implications in it,
Mhm.
because oftentimes they do. So just making sure that we're thinking now about what those things are and getting those issues identified, because
I'm
we
fine.
have operating budget.
I'm fine with exactly what you just
Yep,
said, if
just
that's
that.
it. And then,
Yep.
but I think then the language can be simplified to
Yeah.
to just narrow it to that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
it's just actually 1 and 2. It's not number 3
Yeah.
in the metrics.
And also, a lot of these, there's overlap in these plans. We've
There is,
identified
yeah.
those. If you just think about the transportation plan, which we'll be reviewing, and the climate action plan.
There's a huge overlap there.
Well, I think
Well,
Ellen tried to make them the same. If I'm
Well, but
correct.
the-
Yeah.
So
For
we're two committees hit on the
Yep.
same points.
Yep.
That rises to a level of importance, I think.
Yep. Okay. Let's not belabor this one. We'll stick with
Sounds
1 and
good.
2.
Yeah, stick with
Let's
1 and
move on. All right. All right, so then the next one, Paul, actually was
Well, I think
yours around
the whole next one is,
transportation.
I think we've discussed that. We moved that to the strategic plan. So I think that's not a separate item. The transportation plan we
okay.
discussed before, so we can cross that one out. And the other plans is.
Folds into what we were just talking
Yeah,
about.
it
Well, it
does
folds
sort
into
of
what we were
fold
just
in.
talking
Yeah.
about and to what we talked about last week or 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
We'll come back. Okay. All right, so then the next one was communications. Paul, and we had a discussion last
Yeah.
week, communications, and you were going to come back with some thoughts.
Yeah, we started
about
having a
that.
discussion. It's sort of, we haven't conquered that yet or figured out what we're going to do, but I'm going to come back. I think that still should be on here.
Okay. So you're going to, yeah, okay, so Q1, and you'll come back with some actions. All right, and then, Paul, you also had website improvements. And I just kind of wanted to understand a little bit more about what these meant. So when you say optimize search engine, I guess I want to understand, what does that entail? Because that can mean a lot of things. A lot of the results that you get back have to do with the documents themselves, so I'm not quite sure what
Well,
you were trying to get to.
it's just that. If you're looking for a specific item, it's hard to find right now. It's there,
Mhm.
but you can't just put it in the search term. You can't go 2025 annual report. You can't find it. So by optimizing, it gets very specific. The information is there, but the search engine is not optimal. I think Jeff realizes that, and I think that's something that's really important. To make good use of the information that's there, the search engine has to perform better.
So I think it could be update website architecture. I use the architecture and clickology, right?
Yeah.
I think we recognize that there is work that needs to be done on the back end to make it easier to find things. We had also, and Paul, I think I mentioned this to you, we had also investigated an AI search agent that is more helpful, more intuitive than just using the general search function that is provided, and might, instead of just returning everything that's responsive, and you might think that the first thing that comes back is the most recent, and it's not necessarily, but with an AI agent,
it is more likely to be the most recent. And so
Right.
I do think that we can make a presentation to the select board in the first quarter to talk about what that project is and then start identifying what the timetables are associated with that.
So when this is really making it easy for people to use this, to use the website and find things.
Yeah, I want to just appreciate, so I do have an IT architecture background also,
Yes, you
and
do.
this stuff is hard. And so I think Carrie, your recommendation of coming back and talking about what it could be and what the scope would be and the timeline is helpful, because it may not be as easy as we think. But we should work on it.
Number 2 is done.
Is it done? I was just going to ask you, because
It
I
was
know
the-
that we have a new spot
It was
on
done. There's
for
a new
MMN.
button. Julie
Okay.
put that button on there, and that's
Okay,
done.
good. Done.
All right.
Something that would be a little bit of an improvement even over that is if you're looking through the history of the what's called the Agenda Center, where it
Yeah.
has a link for the agenda, a link for the minutes. Wouldn't it be nice to have a link for the video? Just a thought, you know.
It's possible. There are some boards and committees that do that. I know the
Yeah.
finance committee at least used to do that, so.
Yeah, so
A
you're
lot
going-
of committees are doing that on their web pages too. You have your minutes, your
Right,
package,
on
and
the
then your
individual web pages,
videos.
but it's not as you say. So
like in the Agenda Center, you're going down
Yeah, you
all
just-
the meetings,
yeah.
and all the meetings are there, and then you have the option for the minutes. You have the next to it if the minutes, if the minutes have been filed, you can get the minutes. Wouldn't it be nice to have another link?
And
that's-
Civic Engage, on the software to Civic Engage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would send us right
That
to
goes
the,
to
the meeting,
architecture.
the meeting video.
Potentially. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Okay, let's, and then, so the next one is creating a welcome, inclusive, and diverse community. And most of these were Mary's. And there are some overlap here. I'll just note the first one, implement the hate and bias reporting system is somewhat what, Paul, you put down right below
Yeah,
this
right.
one. So I think we
Yep.
could maybe eliminate Mary's or yours, but we'll collapse them. And then
Yeah, I think Paul's has more specificity.
yeah, it has more specificity, I think.
So,
here.
sorry, Paul's has more specificity, so we might want to just collapse it into that.
Yeah, that's kind of what I said. Take Paul's.
Yeah.
Continues celebrations. One of the things I just want to comment on was I did follow up in Mary's absence with the DEI chair, and there is going to be the DEI survey. I think has been in the public domain for a while, and that's I think just coming to a close. And they're going to be summarizing those results and then putting together action items as a result of that survey. So I think that some of those recommendations may fall into this area. So whether it's untold stories or annual celebrations, I think some of the activities that the DEI Commission has done in the last couple of years came out of the last survey. So I also think that part of what the DEI goal could be is implementing some of those recommendations. So. And that may come, so some of the annual celebrations may come out of the survey results. And the untold stories, the narrative, and I just want to say one thing here. This is the tell about history. Mary has a historic commission here for that, and I don't know the details of that. What I do think, and I have had a conversation with her, and this relates to one of your goals, Paul, you recommended creating a committee to look at the tercentennial markers. And I think in the Historic District Historical Commission report, they also have a goal of telling untold stories. And I wonder if in your goal where you were talking about creating a committee for tercentennial markers, why don't we have the Historic Commission work on tercentennial markers?
So
Feedback.
so if you go down,
Right.
if you look where it says markers and untold stories, that I had items 1 and 2, and I think they're different. We've talked about
Yeah.
the Revolutionary War.
Yep, and
Memorial
Mary's got that
Committee.
when she
Right,
comes back. She's going to work on
No,
that.
the other one, within the historical preservation plan, there is a recommendation, which is, and I'll read it, develop an interpretive plan, recommendations for historical and commemorative markers, and interpretive signage. So stepping back, given the tercentennial marker kerfuffle
Yeah.
and the Black History Marker evolution. I think we need to step back and sort of ask, what do we want to honor in our history, and how do we do that? And, you know, rather than just jump into the I think tercentennial markers, but part of that, you know, what comes next? What peoples in town, what ethnics in town do we want to celebrate through what means, whether the historical markers or whatever? And I think that's not just the historical commission. There has been a recommendation that a subcommittee be formed from that. But I think it's an integration of historical committee, HDC, DEI commission, and some others that probably need to get together and answer the question, how do we celebrate our history in terms of commemorations, markers? Where do we do that in town? How do we do that? And especially, what's the process for doing that? I've thought about how our flag policy evolved, right? Now, it's not exactly the same, but there were a lot of conflicting views. I think we need to step back. We need a committee to define what do we need to celebrate, how to do that, and what's the process for moving that forward. We don't have any of those right now. So that was the idea with this Historical Markers Committee, which I thought it's beyond just the Historical Commission. I think it involves it's a cross-section of several different interested commissions. So that was the idea behind number 2 there, which was a version of the untold stories, but it's a little bit more than that. It's like, we need some advice on how to implement telling our histories moving forward, because I think we don't have applications in front of us and not have a process or have a deliberative body having thought this through. So that's my long-winded way of saying I think we need something that's different than the Revolutionary War Monument Committee, but equally important.
I just like to avoid hanging the HDC out to dry with no framework in order to do their work.
Exactly. They have a role in this, as do other, as
Exactly.
the DI Commission, as do other people, and the at-large members. I think we need a group to thoughtfully think this through.
Yep. Process and guiding principles, I think.
So, is it creating a committee, or are we starting? I mean, I guess I'm hesitant to create yet another committee. We have so many.
Well, I know, but I
committees,
think the goal is we need to address the issue, and exactly how we can have further debate if we want to.
Right.
But I think recognizing that we want to, come up with something.
Yeah, I mentioned to Carrie earlier that I get slammed over the head to advise another committee, but I think that's what we're looking at. A standing committee. This is kind of a long-term thing. We need some thoughtful advice from our citizens and other committees. So I don't see how we avoid a group of people getting together in a committee with a specific charge.
I think, you started to say what you wanted, and it rung. I really liked it, putting a little more history together. What is the history that we want to celebrate? I think we need to put some more meat on that description.
Yes.
As a next step.
I'd be willing to take a crack at writing
a
charge. And Mary's, I think, writing the charge for the revolution.
Yeah.
I'd rather charge for the, whatever we call this, the historical. It's really not Historical Markers Committee. It's because it may be markers, it may be a historic. I'll figure out the name if it is.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Then we'll. Okay.
So we okay to move to?
Yeah, let me just, I think I jumped ahead though, so I apologize for that. So, but the legal
Cultural
one.
Commission would be another.
Yes.
Well, no, the one I was going to go to was, if it's okay, was the mandatory DEI training. I feel like the other ones
Yeah, so I was trying to go
about.
back. We did. So this, I don't know, it's mandatory. The one of the recommendations coming out of the DEI group is to do some training around DEI for staff, leadership, and some committee members. So I think that's a worthy training to do. I mean, is it the question of it being mandatory?
Well, I guess I don't know what we do today, and I just think it's very broad to say mandatory training for town leadership, staff, and committee members. We have a lot of committee members. You could spend millions of dollars, I'm sure,
Yeah.
doing training.
I
No, I'm
see.
just
Yeah,
trying
I
to get
see
the
what
scope
you're
of
saying,
it.
yeah.
That's, I mean, I'm not opposed to DEI training. It's just I don't even know what we do today exactly. And so, what are we saying? Is there a gap, and where is it?
Yeah, so I think, Wendy, I think we were talking about this, and
Yeah.
we piloted this past year a quarterly governance
Oh,
training
yes. Yeah.
opportunity. So the town clerk's office does a quarterly newsletter and addresses governance issues, and then I think they had 4 separate topics
Yeah.
and they
Oh,
did
wow.
training,
Yeah.
and we thought maybe we could add different topics under the heading of diversity, equity, and inclusion to that.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like, I'm okay
Yeah.
with something. It
Yeah.
just we
Yeah,
need to be more
yeah.
specific and
Yeah.
more bounded as to what it is, and
But-
building off of stuff we're
But
already
in,
doing.
in terms of what we're
Yeah.
doing right now, we offered the bystander training multiple times. We offered that both community-wide and internal to the organization. There's some other specific trainings that were offered both externally to the community, internally to the organization. And then we started the dignity
Yeah.
framework with Dr. Donna Hicks. So I think that's what I was thinking
Yeah.
is maybe there would be a quarterly offering. I wasn't necessarily thinking mandatory.
Yeah, like
but
expand
just
existing
something-
training,
Well, and I
quarterly
think
training to include DEI side. I don't know.
this is also
Something.
where the survey results may come back to, where we're
Yeah.
going to see some gaps in knowledge and training. So why don't maybe we'll list this as sort of quarterly DEI training curriculum, make it
Yeah, okay.
available.
As a committee member, like 2 or 3 years ago, I recall an offering where there was an optional thing where you could go and attend, and it was more like you'd sit around in a
Oh,
circle
yes.
out
Yeah.
here in
We
the,
did that, yes.
conference room out here, in the big meeting
Yeah.
hall.
And that was very well received. It's just that we brought in somebody from
Right.
I think New York. She actually was from New York. Very well received, but difficult to get a group of people together at the
I
same time.
didn't think it was
for-
well
That's
attended.
what I remember.
I didn't
But
think it was well
it was
attended. It
good.
was like, hey, we have this optional,
Yeah.
we have this optional
Yeah.
thing you can attend. I went to it. I'm like, there's like 10 people here. This is not
Yeah.
not well
Okay.
attended.
All
Okay.
right. Well, I think we have some good feedback on that one.
Yep.
So then we have the hate and bias reporting, historic markers, and then economic vitality. All right, Cameron. So some of these were yours. So
Yes, they were. They are.
They are, yes.
And
Oh, this
just-
is where-
this
yeah.
is where a couple of
You
things
can read
get sort
them,
of cut
yeah.
off in the PDF.
Yep.
So I'm going to test my
So-
glasses eyesight here. So the first one is, the first one is around wastewater and that the plans and fees support existing and potential businesses in Concord. So I think, as we've talked about, right, there's wastewater fees. We think at times at least some people have felt them to be high for, as a potential barrier to entry for new businesses, et cetera. So it's just making sure that we're, I'm working, got to connect with Mimi. She's done some report on that already.
She did some reporting,
Mhm.
I think, to the economic vitality
She
Yep.
did.
in the past.
Yep, she has in the
on this.
past, and I'm sitting down with her to sort of go through
Okay.
what we've found already, talk with the Economic Vitality Committee about,
Okay.
sort of the implications.
Right.
But we need a stronger fact base and, to be able to come up with maybe some alternatives for consideration.
So it's looking for alternative fee structures. I know that we assess the fees to make sure that they are covering our costs. We know that. And so I'm just trying to be specific here about what we're trying to do. Are we looking for some alternative fee structure to incent business in town, or is some concern that's
Or
a barrier to entry
yeah.
into town?
Yeah. So I don't know if it's incent or don't disincent.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Maybe the fees are what they are.
Cameron,
too.
are these sewer, wastewater, when you say wastewater plants?
Sewer improvement fees,
These
I'm
are
guessing.
sewer
Yeah.
hookup fees?
Yeah,
I see.
so what'll happen is some restaurant will come in and
Right.
say, "Hey, I want to come in," and the town might say, "Well, it's going to cost $40,000 or $50,000
Right,
in
right.
improvement fees if you want to come in to that location," as an example, right? So at times people have said, "Hey, that's prohibitive to us getting businesses.
So like the non-pizza place that's
into-
not going
into-
in down on Elm Street.
getting into
there's a-
some
So what's
locations.
the action here? I like what you've written, but what's the deliverable, what's the output of?
Well, we have to look at the fee structure. We have to look at, are there alternatives, and, come up with, proposals, or see if there's ways that those things could be adjusted.
But we're supposed to cover our costs too, so you want to do that. I guess I'm struggling with how to do that and cover our costs.
So we did just update our
Right.
sewer
Fees.
sewer
And it's-
hookup fees,
yeah.
and they are significant, and they do cover the cost.
Right.
I do recognize that they are a barrier, particularly to small business. So I think probably what we're looking at is what are some creative alternatives to help new businesses manage those fees? Or is there a small business grant program that we might look at establishing, or something like that?
I think it's a regulatory review of this. You were really reviewing the current regulation, the current fee structure, and see if we can improve those to make them more business friendly.
I think we did, but I think what Carrie's now saying is it is finding a creative alternative to help small business. I'm hearing
Yes,
small
and you
business.
can also always decide that you want to spread the costs to other ratepayers, right? I'm not saying whether we should or shouldn't, but that's a decision you can make, right?
Right.
So it's really a regulatory review evaluating alternatives. I'm just trying to figure out how to state that.
Yeah.
I like the idea.
Yeah,
So
so it's doing that review and coming up with, alternatives or options.
Yep.
Review and evaluate alternatives.
Do we have a larger issue that if we were to have, number of restaurants want to open, that it would create a wastewater problem where we just don't have any capacity?
Well, we don't have any today.
Like we had to have.
Yeah, but this
We know that.
comes back to
The
the
capacity is
capacity.
related but different issue.
Yeah, but
Right.
we had a debate about whether the bathrooms over at the high school would
Right.
be allowed because it
Right.
was, are we going to have too much wastewater? So,
Yep.
so it's a
Part of the
fee and-
equation as
fee
well.
and capacity.
Yep.
Well, but
Yep.
I
Capacity
think
has
we
to-
previously discussed wastewater capacity earlier.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we did.
In the
We
goal.
absolutely
Yeah,
did.
we
So
had.
it's way
Yeah.
up on the strategic
Right.
level.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's up there.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, well, I got a quick modification on that one. Then the next one is, this one's cut off also. So, what is this one
Yeah.
now? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so this was just about the infrastructure and permitting
Yeah, so it's
efforts,
support
right?
infrastructure and permitting efforts. Cell phone coverage, cell phone coverage, parking fees that will attract and retain Concord business. Well, we don't have any parking fees right now. Right? Hopefully that's not changing. We are sort of working on cell phone coverage. But you're-
It's not a fee, but it's a planning and zoning thing, which is, the required parking that you would have to have for an establishment,
yeah.
which is a different problem.
Yeah, no, I was just looking at that
Yeah, I
permitting.
know, it's-
Yeah, sorry. So is this, I'm trying to understand what this
Well,
boils
really,
down
it comes
to.
down to when you look at permits, parking, fees that are charged, cell phone coverage, all those things, like how does it, really sort of how does it come together to have a package that, is sort of attractive, right? So businesses want to come in if their customers can park in places,
Right.
if they don't have to go through a whole bunch of, permitting and fees that make it onerous, and if they, have cell phone coverage that allows them to execute transactions and things like that. So, that's the idea is just sort of looking at how to make sure that we've got, from a commercial point of view, the right, looking at the right things, looking at the right streamlining, looking at the right
So
opportunities.
in terms of trying to not necessarily streamline, but at least guide, isn't that a role that Mimi is really trying to provide, is some sort of guidance to get people through
To
the
navigate
thicket,
the
to
process,
navigate
yeah.
the permitting
Yeah.
process?
Well, there's guidance to navigate. Then there's the question of,
Is it still too onerous?
yeah, there's a question of should we change any of those things, right?
Yeah,
So
right.
so yes, you're right. Yes,
Right.
that is part of it. But then there's also the like, okay, is there anything that we could look at doing, setting up?
These
this
all
thing?
seem to have the same theme to them,
No,
right?
the more you
So-
talk about it, this is a regulatory review. It's not just sewer hookups. It's what are the obstacles
Mhm.
and,
Right.
and for new businesses, and can we
And I think
adjust them?
Mimi has done that, and Mimi, okay, Megan, maybe you can
Yes.
speak to this.
Mimi has
Yes,
put
yes.
together a framework,
Right.
kind of looking at the regulatory challenges that
Mhm.
Cameron brought up
Right.
across the board and how they impact businesses. And there's so many different levers that would need to be adjusted to kind of move the needle. And some are zoning changes, some are fees, and they're different bodies that are responsible for them. But looking at them holistically, I know she did discuss this with the EVC at one point, but and I think Mary as the former liaison, so I think she would be available to discuss it with the select board, or I think at one point we were talking about like a joint EVC select board conversation about it. However you would like to.
Yeah.
There has been a lot of data and work collected on this to kind of zoom out and look at the whole picture, and we'll be happy to provide that information with the board however you would like.
Yeah, no, that's helpful. And because again, I guess what I'm trying to get, people say, hey, there is not as much commercial activity as there used to be in Concord, or there should be more, or there could be more. Okay, let's get tangible, let's get tactical. Like, what does that mean? Oh, well, if we could get rid of these onerous regulations, or if we could do this with wastewater fees, or whatever that is, like, okay, because otherwise you're just kind of going, my opinion is this, right? Your opinion is that, right? It's like, okay, are there things we can actually do to invigorate?
And kind of layer and kind of
Right,
come
yeah.
up with a plan for how to.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So
that's my thinking.
yeah, I'm just wondering, is it one thing with the EVC? Is it a whole strategy of trying to, starting with the work that Mimi's already done and working with EVC to identify, with Mimi's
Yeah.
support, a couple recommendations to ease, or just recommendations around
We
supporting
could combine
small
those
business?
first two, absolutely,
Okay.
into something, Paul, you're talking about that's more, holistic
It's a
there.
regulatory review and looking at
Yep.
obstacles and seeing if we can
Yep.
provide some relief.
Yep.
How rigid are these and how flexible?
Are there opportunities?
Some are rigid and others may be flexible.
Okay,
Yep.
so it's a regulatory to review
Yep.
and look at, you just said it really well. Regulatory review, are there any obstacles that we can address?
Other obstacles, can they be overcome? Where's the rigidity? Where's the flexibility? And a lot of it's probably been done already. So.
Well, I think the work that will be discussed is kind of thinking about the trade-offs, right?
Mhm.
Right.
Like how would
Yeah.
changing this impact the community, and
Absolutely.
is
Correct.
the community
Yeah.
willing to make that change or not, and to understand, some of the elements.
Regulations it's like whack-a-mole. Really,
Yeah.
I mean, you hit this and this one pops up. It really.
These were created over decades,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so it's peeling certain things back.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
Takes
looking at
that
all the old bylaws.
Yep.
Wonder if there's any in there that we might want to get rid of.
All right, and then, so
okay.
the next one, I actually think we already have under MCI. So you've
Yeah,
got support
so-
retail and commercial development as part of MCI planning process, so. it
So,
is being
yeah,
reviewed as
I guess
part
it was
of
just to
MCI.
make sure that we're connecting that dot, right?
Yep.
With not just MCI, but what is the impact?
Of MCI across the whole community?
Yeah,
Is that
and in
what you're-
particular,
West
like other
Concord?
existing
Yeah.
West Concord businesses, right?
That's part of the
Yeah.
analysis.
Okay.
is trying to
So if
make
that's
sure that we're-
covered,
Yeah.
I don't want to be duplicative if we think
Yeah, I
that
think
that's
it's, I
already
think it's
covered.
covered.
I do think that one is covered.
Yep, okay.
Is that, sorry.
And then let's then evaluate.
And I
No,
do
but then
think
you do
that-
have evaluate impact of future development and existing businesses, particularly those located in West Concord. Oh,
Yeah,
are those sort of the same?
those are kind of the same, aren't they?
Okay, yeah, they
Mhm.
seem like it, okay. So we think they're both
Um,
covered.
Well, actually, no, I think they're a little bit, so Okay, so as part of West Concord, that's a thing, existing West Concord business. I guess the one before it was more within MCI.
Yeah.
What is the retail and commercial?
Yeah,
do you
that's
think
covered.
the illustrative plan
You know,
should bring us,
It is gonna do
some
that,
really
yeah.
good
Yeah.
ideas
Come on
about
Thursday.
how to
Yeah.
be there? Well, I'll be
Yeah.
there Thursday.
I guess, yeah. So it's all just like, as I've been,
Yeah.
as the liaison to economic
Yeah.
vitality, when I've met with them,
Yeah.
it's sort of like, hey, what's going into MCI?
Right.
Is it just like some restaurants, or are there other retail or commercial opportunities? And then also, what is the impact to existing businesses,
Yeah.
particularly in West Concord? So that's the sort of, and
I
if
think-
we want to make sure that that's covered in
Yeah.
what we're doing. Sorry, Megan.
Wendy, if you
No,
don't
go
mind,
ahead. I know
Mimi
you're
and I
going.
discussed this goal too, and we're thinking about, what a deliverable could be. And she recommended, one thing we could look at is applying for a technical assistance grant for a ULI study. That's the Urban Land Institute, and there's a couple different models, but you bring in kind of experts from all different areas and get together and do kind of a planning conversation with a certain business district or neighborhood. It's something we did in Maynard for our kind of downtown parking area, and it could be something to kind of focus on the West Concord business district and bring the property owners and businesses together to kind of envision what makes that space so special, which there, of course, is a number of things. So that might be, if that was something the board would be interested in, that might be, make its way onto a work plan for staff to pursue.
That sounds like a great, what do you
Yeah.
think, Cameron? It sounds
Yeah.
good to me. And so it's really a grant? It's like a planning grant? did
So
you say?
yeah, there are a number
Okay,
of
yeah.
technical assistance
technical.
grants through like MAPC, but
Okay.
they're kind of sometimes on a rolling basis.
Okay.
I think you can pay for ULI studies too, but that would probably put something together for a grant application first, I'm sure.
Great. Thank you. Good idea.
Just one corollary to that, one of the projects in the economic bonding bill, which hopefully is looking at the economic impact of future development on the traffic congestion. So
Yeah.
a piece of that which could come out of the bonding bill, of funding, if that's successful.
Yep. Okay, I'm going to keep going on. There's one line here, it says regional collaboration, and then it says implement the, get results from pilot. I think we had already covered the pilot before, so I don't know what it was.
I don't even know what that is.
I picked up two regional collaboration targets, which I think are in. One was Suasco Water, and this is under resilience and sustainability.
Yep.
The Suasco effort and the effort on regional transportation with Lowell Regional Transit Authority.
So I had two questions. One was on the MVP, the Suasco. I think we also have to, we have a very large project in play right now.
We do.
Supporting that, but this looks
This is
very
a-
specific to grants.
This is additional
Seek
funding.
additional.
Well, the
grant
MVP,
funding.
the Suasco effort is funded by MVP grants, right?
Yes.
Right.
So this is, let's get more MVP money. It's out
I just want to
there.
make sure it's a project that we can manage. It's one thing to get the grant, but
Oh,
we have to be
yes.
able to support it. Right?
Yes, I think there is a plan to kind of try to capture the next couple of funding cycles to continue the Suasco collaborative, and efforts are being made. Will it be Concord specific for like the management and continuation of the climate collaborative? Probably not. I think at one point it will. We've been the grant manager for 2 years, or we will have been. And Suasco, ORS or another entity might, take a more prominent role in managing it. But looking for grant funding for specific projects, in Concord and elsewhere that will improve. That is really the ultimate goal, to continue in state investment in our watershed.
Okay, so clearly grant funding is always good, so we're going to keep that one on the list. And the transportation, I guess, Paul, I wanted to ask one question about this one. there's the pilot program that we were asked, that Maynard's doing, that we might be able to extend. But I don't know if that required us to join the Lowell Region Transportation Authority, because then there's if we join the Lowell Transportation Authority, then we start having a serious conversation about having our own line, right? We're extending
Yeah, I don't, that chicken and egg, my understanding of that meeting was that the Lowell Regional Transit Authority was going to ask Maynard and Acton to add Concord, but that didn't require us to join.
Right.
Now, I don't care, you were there, I'm not sure which, the next step is to join
Where I'm going is
LRTA.
this part of this joining the Lowell Regional Transportation Authority?
Yep.
And then, because it's like a multi-year to get something in place for us, but the first step, I think, is to join.
I had a conversation with Ellen in which she distinguished two distinct threads. One was joining the more regional one with Acton, Maynard, et cetera.
And that's a study. That's a study.
And the other was the Lowell Regional Authority. We join them, we take our money from the cherry sheet, I don't really understand that well, take our money from that and we reallocate it to them, and then we can have a local service. We could create a local service.
The study was more to define the routes and to define the interfaces with the other towns.
Right.
And from that comes suggestions to the LRTA, after we join, how do we implement that?
Right.
But I don't know where that study initiative is right now, but there's sort of two parts to the same.
Yeah, they're two different things.
There's two different things.
So I think we're agreeing we want to do something here on transportation, and it's either one of those or two or both. But I think we need more information on which one specifically.
Well, I think we're headed towards joining LRTA, which would get us bus route or routes.
Right.
But the details need to be worked out.
And right, and then the town has to do the work to figure out what that route is going to be.
Exactly.
But the Maynard one is a little different, because I think all they want to do is come to West Concord. They just want to get to a train station. They don't want to, and they might want to go to Emerson Hospital.
They want to go to Emerson Hospital, right.
Yeah, they might, yeah.
Well, but LRTA says, well, you could extend that into Concord.
Yeah.
We have to kind of regroup on that, but that's the goal, to kind of.
So I think we want to pursue opportunities here. Let me wordsmith a little bit.
Yep.
Maybe we'll
Yep.
follow up with Ellen and get specific. All right, this is going to be a lot of fun trying to make sense of all these notes. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next section under resilience. So that collaborate with the school committee and the ESCO. I think, Dean, this one.
So this is really trying to hopefully find some efficiencies in the larger buildings in the community that are managed by the town, and in our energy use. And an ESCO agreement, Megan, you talked about it at the CAC. You talk about these opportunities where you can get decarbonization as a service, which is sort of a replacement for an ESCO service. But we'd need to go to a 40,000-foot view, which is to get the school committee on the same page with us and get involved. Because the big places where the town can save money on energy and can really energize, our decarbonization plan is in the school buildings. So that's where the great square footage is and where we can save some money.
Right.
So is that us or is that the school?
I think it's both.
Yeah.
I think it's
well,
joint.
no. I'm just asking if they are ultimately sort of the decision maker and driver on it.
Well, I think that
Well,
maybe
if you look at the decarbonization plan that both committees have signed into,
right.
it ranks the buildings in order of their carbon impact.
Right.
Now, the BD is right up there. You got the
Yeah.
CCHS right at the top is the biggest square footage and the biggest, but the BD is right there. But then there's the elementaries.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
getting the school committee on board, I think, would be in some kind of a joint effort here. Would be to manage the energy use in all of our buildings would be helpful. And I don't know if it's too big a reach. That's all.
Yeah. Michael, do you care to comment? This is about our energy roadmap.
Yeah, I wish we had
and
a member of the school committee.
Since
He
Michael's
can't
here.
speak for the school committee.
No, I know he can't, but I just, part of this is, what I was
I
thinking
think Tracy
is,
might be online too.
Okay.
She's our liaison, I think.
All right, well, and Michael's here too. Well, Tracy, yep, Tracy's raised her hand. So I guess I just wanted to just confirm that this was presented to the school committee, and if I believe it was supported. This is the roadmap that was presented.
Yes, I see the vice chair is on. It was presented, Megan presented, and I recall we voted favorably, but you can check with our chair and vice chair.
Okay, so Tracy, I recognize you have your hand raised. As chair, do you want to comment from a school committee perspective around pursuing an energy?
Hi, sorry about that. I am no longer the chair. I'm the vice chair of the region. Sorry, my dog does not like Zoom. So, we can't speak on behalf of the committee at this point. Thanks.
Uh-oh. Still there?
Still there.
Yeah, I think she just said she can't.
Oh, that's
speak
it.
on
Oh, that
behalf
was
of
her
the
comment.
committee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean,
Yeah,
I feel
sorry.
like
Sorry, I
the
did say that.
I just feel like the first two we need to go back and talk to the school committee. That's all. I mean, I'd hate to sign up for
No. I guess where I was
goals
going is,
that they're not aligned
Right.
with.
but I also think this is a great joint select board school committee project or goal to have. But Megan, did you want to say something?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, I have been discussing this with the superintendent and assistant superintendent. We have been talking about it in concept. We haven't, kind of formally signed off on it, but I think it would be helpful for me if this is, to understand if this is a major goal for the select board. Because I think, there's probably a lot of different steps to get there.
Right.
Or, work towards it with the.
So just to add a little color, I'm the liaison at the CAC, and you're there when these conversations are going on. They're looking at this plan, this decarbonization, whatever, and staring us in the face are the first building, which is the oldest, is Alcott. It was built like 20 years ago, and it will come up, its boilers will need to be replaced at some point. And so they're thinking, why aren't we, that's why it's in my comment here, why aren't we get a feasibility study. These things take years to get to the point where you actually end up putting a shovel in the ground or, changing out a boiler. But you have to do the work up front. So we need to start somewhere. Or the roadmap is nothing more than a roadmap. It's just.
Is this going to be
it's up to
an
them.
action in the Climate Action Committee report too? Because I wonder if we should just wait on this and let the Climate Action Committee.
I believe that something will be added to that, and there's a lot of interest in the Climate Action Committee to really digging into what Megan pointed out earlier, which is geothermal energy. And so decarbonization and geothermal energy are their hand in glove. They are part and parcel of the same thing. So I think that starting at Alcott and maybe having to drill some wells around Alcott to generate some geothermal energy would be something that the CAC will be trying to put in their report. But decarbonization generally is the goal of the thing. So
It is listed as a draft action in the climate action plan, but of course the actions have not been finalized.
But my guess is that something is going to be in that plan.
Something is going to be in that plan.
We should just focus on getting the climate action plan done, and that will help outline some actions here. So maybe that's the right approach.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. CMS Solar. I think we're ready to go, but I think we have a challenge.
We're ready and not ready. Yep.
Okay.
There's a small hiccup, but I think it's mostly administrative at the point.
Okay.
I fingers crossed that we can do this. Frankly, if the cards fall into place, it will be done before the end of the year. It would be done before October.
Yeah.
That's how rapidly Jason thinks he can move on that.
Okay.
So it says it got pushed out to Q3, but I think that's more than if it doesn't happen, if it doesn't start to happen in the next couple of 3 weeks, doesn't start to happen, then you're going to be looking at next summer. You're going to be looking at farther down the road.
Okay. But so the idea here was probably Q2 to get it done?
I would put Q2 because I think
Okay.
that's a good goal.
Yep.
I think it's achievable.
Right. I know we're working on it, so
Yep.
fingers crossed.
Yep.
Hopefully get that done. Landfill solar and battery, we know, is in process.
That's fully in
we got
process.
the pilot,
and we just
great.
approved the pilot.
Yep, construction will start soon.
And this last one here from for the light plant is something that I've understood from the director is really mostly paperwork at this point, that all of the technical capacity to do this is in place on both sides. But it is a lot to try to work with the ISO New England people. It's a complex problem to just get the paperwork. Right now, the way this is designed, if we were to push electricity back, which we can, if it were to flow back, that would create an event on the other side at Eversource. They would say, we're seeing energy here. We are going to shut you off. No more energy is flowing into you. So we need to overcome that. But it's not a technical thing. It's a paperwork thing. They should be allowed to let the energy flow, and they will, because they're capable of letting it flow. But right now, if they see it, they'll turn us off.
And this is one that there was a limit to it too, right? It's like 5 megawatts.
Oh yeah, it's very low limit. This is not a serious agreement to sell energy back. That's
right.
Not
No,
what
it was
this
an
is.
infrastructure issue. It's infrastructure. No, it doesn't. It has to do with that.
And
it's the same reason why we need a battery.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's a real
is it
positive.
really Q1 though? I guess I wanted to make sure that that's real adjacent. So maybe. Because
it really has to. It mostly has to do. I mean, Jason was pretty optimistic.
Yeah, okay.
But it really has to do with whether he can wake up the appropriate people at both Eversource and whoever he has to talk to at ISO New England. Mostly it's Eversource because we interface directly with Eversource. So if Eversource sees electricity going the other way, they just go no. They would turn off the circuits.
Okay.
You know. So.
All right, maybe you can just follow up with him.
Yeah, I
and
will.
find out if
Yeah,
Q1
but I
is
think
real. This wasn't our plan last year.
Well, 9:30. If you were to drift that to Q2, put it on Q2 because it's really a question of administrative connections. And Jason seems to think that he's made a few connections. I don't want to speak for him too much here, but cool. Optimistic.
Okay, and then we know we have the climate action plan.
And we have that, and that's
Q2.
Yeah.
Great. All right. All right, I think we're back on time again now that we used all that time. Oh, wait, sorry.
Public comments on these
Yeah,
goals?
I can do that.
I don't know if
Thank you
anybody
for the
has them.
reminder. I have, let me show. Are there public comments on the goals? Thank you, Paul. I'm not seeing any. Michael, come on up. Thank you.
Michael Williams, I'm on the liaison to the DI Commission on the Black Heritage Trail Markers Advisory Team, and a member of the school committee, speaking as myself. In speaking to your select board goals on the stories that we tell and trying to tell all the stories, I think, as you correctly stated, Paul, we want to tell all the stories. And I think in terms of getting advisory help, one might want to look to find advice for how we tell all those stories equitably, but not which stories we want to tell. We want to tell all of them. I think the other point, effective and transparent government, again, we want to try and moderate things so we get all of the untold stories made open so we can all rejoice in the riches that we have. And finally, under resilience and sustainability, you have to find a balance between regulatory review and having the freedom to get the things done for our community that we need done. Those are the three statements I have. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Michael. All right. Okay, I see no other hands raised, so we will move on to our last and final agenda item. Well, not last, but on to the Transportation Advisory Committee charge, which Paul, you've drafted and we have in our packet.
Okay, you have that in your packet. Just a little context. The last time the Transportation Advisory Committee charge was updated was 2021. Since then, a lot of things have happened. A lot of things are in motion. There's been a lot of work on roadway safety, collaboration between TAC and Public Works Commission, Public Works Department, and just a lot of activity. And of course, there's the transportation plan that's coming out we'll be reviewing. Along the way, in conversations with the TAC chairs and with the town manager, who is the appointing authority, I guess we were reflecting that TAC had a lot of conversations and a lot of discussions, but their mission wasn't really clear in terms of how would they make recommendations, how they would impact decisions, or to whom they make those decisions. So in putting together this charge, which is collaboration between town manager, myself, and the chairs of the Transportation Advisory Committee, and by the way, at their last meeting, TAC reviewed this, and they don't have to vote on it, but it was well received. The focus here was to create some sharp-edged duties, really. So the purpose has a lot of sort of general things where the TAC would be involved with, but the real meat of this is the duties of TAC, and I'll just read those. And some of the verbiage is important because instead of advising or discussing, we want TAC to provide specific recommendations. We want them to track developments. We want them to develop action plans. So this charge has a lot more action and actionable items. There is a focus around the transportation plan because there's a lot of information there. It's very important. And we need TAC, along with others, to look at that and make recommendations. There's a lot of suggestions. There are a lot of recommendations. They all have budgetary impacts. They all have public input. And TAC is the what we call the public-facing committee here, which gets advice and input from the public and filters that and passes that on to Public Works Commission and others, as they have with the safety project. So that's sort of the context for this. So the duties, I'll just go through these quickly, providing specific recommendations to town manager and the select board that can be implemented to support the transportation goals, to track developments, emerging trends, opportunities that help inform future town planning and capital investment decisions. Importantly, develop an action plan for implementation of the elements of the new transportation strategy. Back to the roadway safety projects, at least on an annual basis, with public input, develop recommended list of high priority transportation roadway safety improvement projects in coordination with citizens and town staff. And of course, this is in collaboration with the Public Works Commission and the Concord Public Works. Working with town staff, implementing a process to prioritize this integration of roadway safety and infrastructure improvements. That is well underway. All the bugs have not been worked out on that yet, but at least the first tranche of priority recommendations are sort of in progress in terms of them being evaluated. Recommending low carbon mobility choices in conjunction working with the Climate Action Committee. Educating the public on those issues, transportation, advising them what on local, state, and national level what can be done, what's practical, what can be implemented in town, and then reporting to the select board and town manager on a regular basis. So I think that's the meat of the duties. The membership is pretty broad because I think TAC requires broad skills. They have a very good, fully staffed committee right now, and they're working very hard. We have a new chair. Both chairs over the last couple of years have been kind of very instrumental in this and moving that along. So I think TAC is going to play an important role in at least one of these strategic plans, moving and helping us in that direction. Of course, they're I don't know, knee deep, eye deep in rotary Rotary developments and traffic and transportation and congestion. So I think they have a big job to do in the next few years. This is just the charge is just a way to guide them what we think is important. So that's what we
I
got.
think it's good, good. I have one question on it. So is TAC like the one place where everybody from a resident perspective brings their ideas and thoughts? And why I'm asking was I know there's an active bike community, and I know Phil Posner's on there, but there's also Concord Mobility, and I've heard that there are some projects where people are trying to go, right to the engineering staff on something. But the intention here is that issues come to TAC, right? And then they get channeled to the appropriate town committees.
Yeah, we have some bugs too. There's some very active groups. There's the mobility group, there's Mothers Out Front. They attend all the meetings, they provide advice. I think right now there's a little ambiguity where the public they go to the traffic management group, the TMG, directly. Historically, and there's a form online. Historically, the TMG has been the recipient of public inputs. We've tried to adjust that, modify that. Aaron McCloskey discussed this at the last meeting with the TAC chair. We need to kind of clarify that, at least coordinate that when the requests come in, so they're evaluated by both groups. So when I talk about this process, it has some bugs we need to work it out. So it needs some clarity on where the public goes first. And if everybody were coordinated and they collaborate, it wouldn't matter where they go as long as we, and we want to have the input of groups like Mobility.
Concord Mobility.
Concord Mobility
I think
and Mothers Out Front, and they're very active, and we want to have that input.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just trying. I know I heard that there were different places. I just didn't know if that was going to change, but it sounds like we're working it through.
I think TAC and Public Works and TM, they're aware that there's some ambiguity in discussion. The other thing that came up, and it was in my liaison report, just as an aside, I think the public input to these infrastructure projects, such as the Baker Avenue, the public input has come in too late. And by design, I think Aaron is we're thinking of modifying that process. So before the design is finalized, we get the public input. So there's that process as well. And that's not just transportation. It's the bicyclists, it's the roadway safety part of the infrastructure projects. So.
Yeah. Good. We'll look forward to hearing how that works its way out. We're together.
Yeah, it's happening.
Dean, any questions?
Just a few comments. I think the duties are fantastic. I think that, you said there's a few bumps in the road that need to be kind of ironed out, but otherwise I think that the TAC has really kind of come into its own, especially now that it has an advisory TAC plan. Just on the language on the first page, I would just use much stronger language. This is a charge. I would say that the TAC shall advise, the TAC shall serve. In other words, we're telling them this is what you're doing. It's not like we're sitting back as a select board saying, oh, the TAC is a thing and it just does this thing. I would just say shall in those three sentences, but that's just me and just wordsmithing. But the one piece of TAC that is absolutely part of what they're really interested in, they're obviously interested in safety, they're interested in all kinds of multimodal transportation. But we get a little far afield when we start talking about conservation easements and conservation trails as part of the TAC charge. We have two committees. We have one that's the Trails Committee. We have a whole committee for trails, and we have a separate committee for Conservation Restriction Committee. We have some committee for that. So I would just sort of get out of that. But the places where these modes meet each other, perfectly right. Like if you're getting to a place where you want to get on a trail and go into a conservation property, what's the parking situation? Are there bike racks there? Those interfaces are, but I think that it's really kind of a stretch to say that we're having the TAC worry about conservation trails. That's just that's just me, but
Yeah, and where it is, it's in the purpose in terms of include discussions of, but I think they're not in the duties
right
themselves. I take the duties much more you know, that's on point.
Okay.
So we don't have that in the duties, but those topics do come up because the public doesn't differentiate between the pieces. So I don't want to discourage those conversations, but to your point, it's not it's not in their remit to take actions in that regard. So.
Right. So the needs of residents as well as residents outside the town to tourist.
Or maybe it's just trails.
Trails, you know.
Trails and not conservation.
I don't know. I just thought it was kind of expansive, and we have other committees we have actual fully standing committees that worry about conservation restrictions and conservation trails.
That's true.
Would you prefer that bullet out to be there? Does
I
that
would
create ambiguity?
I would just, well, since it's not in their duties, I would just take conservation easements and the conservation trails out. It's not in their duties, so why would we have it be in their purpose? I don't know. It just seems kind of like extra. I don't know. But that's just that's my 2 cents. That's all. I'm one voice, and if you want to leave it in, you leave it in.
Where's the easements?
It's in the first.
It's in the second bullet under the purpose.
Oh, okay, in the bullets. I wasn't looking at the purpose. I'm like,
Well, it's infrastructure to support those modes. You know, I don't know. Carrie, you okay taking us out?
We spent so much time.
We spent a lot of
about 18
time in
months
this.
on this. A lot of time on.
If we can live with the.
I'm fine leaving it.
I think shall is fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
I put shall in there. That's an easy fix.
I think because it's not in the duties, I think your point was well taken. You can leave it. I mean, we do have other committees, but.
Yeah, this charge, although it's short, this is a few man hours. Is what's
A few.
A few.
A few, yes.
I'm going to the history.
Yes.
What looks simple has not been.
Okay, so if this is something that's been already massaged to the max, I can live with it. It's fine.
People are comfortable. Most people are comfortable with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, Paul, I had two things. So one is, I don't see anything, and I'm just curious, like traffic and like new development and impact on the roads, and like all the stuff that's coming up with all of our housing developments and MCI and all that stuff. Just how do you see TAC fitting in with that, or advising on that, or studying that, or like, I'm just curious as to how that.
Yeah, I mean, I put that under the banner of roadway safety, because it's pedestrian rather than being explicit on traffic. Because
congestion.
You get into traffic and you get, I don't want to step on the police department. I don't want to step on TNT.
No, I'm thinking more of like who is. I'm asking would you see TAC having a role in saying like, hey, we need to evaluate the impact. Hey, here comes these new developments, right? Here comes all of housing and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Is TAC going to have a role in saying like, hey, we really want to understand the impact of that in terms of our transportation and how that works through the community? Go ahead, Dean.
Second bullet says tracking developments, reviewing emerging transportation trends and opportunities, and recommending local and regional initiatives that will help inform future town planning. So it feels like that's kind of right on what you're looking for.
I mean,
Yeah, I guess it's.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of looking at traffic congestions, and
I was just wondering if it's more explicit, like including that as part of their remit. So that was just. If you feel like it's covered, or if you feel like the TAC is not.
I think it's covered, and I think they will play a role
Okay.
in that. I think they're very interested in that on a very specific level in West Concord, Commonwealth Avenue, everything related to that, and how people move around and how bicycles move around safely.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to make sure that people feel like it's part of what
It's
they
a really
want to
good
do
point,
and that they're going to do it. And
I think it's in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then my only other question was membership appointed by the town manager with approval from the select board. Is that? I guess I thought you're one of the other. You're either appointed by the town manager or you're appointed by the select board not appointed with approval? Because that almost sounds like then it is the select board.
It's a
No,
third category.
that's a category, town
Yeah.
manager
Town manager
approval
with
with
select
select, it's town manager appointment
Appointment
with select board approval.
Okay.
It is a category.
It is a category.
It is.
Okay, I just wanted
For
to.
example, the Public Works Commission is just town manager.
Yeah.
It's just town
That's
manager.
example. Yeah, it's just.
Yeah,
example.
that's what I'm saying. So, okay, but this one is the combo.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a combo.
All right.
Yeah.
Some people memorize that. I go back to the annual report.
No, I have to go back to the
I
report
just
also.
actually has a category.
I don't know it per committee, by committee, so I wanted to ask just to confirm. Thanks.
Always worth checking.
Okay.
All right. I am looking for any comments from the public. If you have some, please raise your hand. Do not see any. No comments from the audience in the room, so I think, are we
So
ready for a
looking to
motion?
approve this as written, or was
With
there a
the shall.
small
The
change?
small
Shalls.
changes, the addition of shall,
Oh,
three
that's
places on the
fantastic.
first page.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I will make a motion to approve the Transportation Advisory Committee charge as presented and as agreed to be modified as discussed.
Great. Is there a
Second.
second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, that's unanimous. Congratulations. Carrie, Ellen. All right, that's great. All right, 8:45. The last agenda item is liaison reports.
So
Ian, did you have
I'll
anything
just,
to add?
mine's in the record
Yeah.
here, and we've already talked about the pilot for the light, the thing over at the landfill. I want to just make it clear to the board that right now we're in a very tight spot with the CMS array. We have a vendor lined up. They have mobilized or quasi-mobilized everything that they would need. They have it available to do a project. And because we had agreed with the school committee previously to a certain agreement between the light plant and the schools to put it on the roof, now you have a different entity that needs to be agreed to put it on the roof, which is this vendor. And so that needs to go through school committee approval. So we need an accelerated process if we're going to get this done this year. That's all. That the school committee is going to need to review the modified version of the site license agreement, that you can't just cross out CMLP and put in vendor name. The vendor has to agree to it, and they may have other terms. So that needs to go through a process. And so we're in a tight mode right now to get that. And I've spoken to the chair of the CPS committee, and he is very engaged. Let's just say that, to try, and when the light plant produces some kind of comparative document that we can work with, they're ready to try to move forward as quickly as prudent.
Great.
So that's
Good to hear. Fingers crossed.
Fingers
on that
crossed.
one. Great.
Otherwise, it will drift to next summer.
All right.
It'll be
Well,
a
that
next
would be
summer project.
unfortunate. So,
Yeah.
all right.
So-
And then we'll probably lose.
And a lot of things
Tax
will change.
benefits and
You know, a
stuff
lot of
like
things
that.
change. If that happens, we may have to go back and renegotiate everything from the, PPA price to the, everything. So
Yeah.
it depends, So,
All right. Fingers crossed.
yeah, fingers crossed.
Paul, anything else?
Just two things on the incident, bi-state incident reporting. And tomorrow, two things are going to happen. I have a conversation with the town council on some of the legal issues that came up in our discussions. And then in the evening, I'm meeting with the working group to discuss the structure of the forum on September 4th, presentation to the public. We anticipate that hopefully being more than just presentation of the reporting system, but actually discussions of how the system will be used, and having a panel that is wider on that. I do want to mention one interesting little factoid. I've asked the question, how many people live in town? The census, because some letters have come up quoting a number that comes off of the town website. So I asked, because that's 15,000 and change.
Right.
This is
Yep.
18. Yeah.
And then, but the federal census is 18,000.
Yeah.
So I asked Carrie to clarify that, and she has. Now, the webpage, which has the town census, includes explanations about where the town census comes from, which is voluntary. It's respondents in town, and where the federal census comes from, and what the differences are. But and they're two different numbers.
Yep,
But,
they're very different numbers.
they're very
actually.
different numbers. It's 15,000 versus 18,000. But the federal number, if you compare with other towns, is almost 18,000.
Yes.
A little over
18,000,
18,000. So,
Yeah.
in case you're interested, you know,
Everyone who
why the
writes a
numbers are
report
different.
comes up with that
Now I
same
know why the
question.
now I know why the numbers
Yeah.
are different. But for
Yes.
purposes of federal representation and
Right.
grants, et cetera, it's the federal number that's used. That's
Yeah,
correct, Carrie? Yeah.
Yeah, I think the easiest thing is that the federal number is population. That it's, one of its main purposes is
Yeah.
to identify population, and the town census is for lots of other things, including voter rolls,
Yep.
jury duty, and it is a voluntary
Right.
return.
There's a lot of warnings in that when you get the mailing that
There
says,
are.
this, you know, you really need to do this. This is you're responsible.
Well, the town clerk's office, I believe they reported they had to remail 2,000
Wow.
forms, so
Really?
it's, yeah, not everybody reads it the way that you did,
Okay.
Mr. Banfield.
But Carrie the town clerk has a really good explanation now online explaining this, in case you're interested.
Good. I mean, it's actually, when you look at other towns too, you have to be careful when because people do, per thousand metrics off that population, and you
Right.
always have to double check where those numbers are coming from. So it's important. Cameron, any other liaison?
I'm good.
All right, I do have one liaison. It's written in my report, but I am the liaison to the Board of Assessors. We have a vacancy on the Board of Assessors, and just want to note that in my liaison report, I identified the process of recruitment for a Board of Registrars requires that in this case, the chair of the town Republican office put forth 3 nominees for the office. And it is the select board's responsibility to review those 3 candidates and then make an appointment after review of those candidates. So in the liaison report, I've identified that there are 3 Republicans who've been registered Republicans for 2 years that are eligible. Jessica French, Kathleen, I know as Casey Winslow, and then John Brozowski. So I just want to let you know that these individuals have been identified, and in our agenda, in our next meeting, we'll have an agenda item to select and make an appointment for one of those individuals. So if you know of those individuals, we'll have a discussion about it next week, in 2 weeks. Right? So it's a little
Got it.
different for the Board of Registrars.
Well,
And
we have
yes.
to vote on them.
We will discuss, and we're going to discuss the candidates and then pick one. So if you have some feedback on any of these candidates, we will be looking forward for that at our next meeting. And I will talk to the chair of the Republican Town Committee as well. on
So
their
we're being
opinion.
asked to choose among 3 Republicans because a Republican stepped off the committee, and
Yes,
so that's
that is the
it's sort of
process,
a
right.
Republican seat, so to speak. Okay.
It is
So-
Republican, so the board's made up of, there's Kari, who is the town clerk, who's technically not unenrolled, but not a particular party. Unaffiliated,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
that's
for this
true.
position, that's
There's
not-
1 Democrat, and there are 2 Republicans on the committee. So-
Okay.
so
This is
just-
one of the rare
It
things
is.
in which we're usually just nonpartisan, everything we
I
do.
know, I
All
know,
the way
but
up
this
to,
one-
all the way up
Yeah,
to
I
this
didn't know.
board,
I
up to
didn't
this
know there
board.
was- I
I
didn't
did
know
not
there
know
was
this is a
anything
thing.
that had
Okay, all right.
political
This is
denomination.
in state law?
This is what you learn, yeah, Board of Registrars, it's a
Okay.
state.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So, just want to bring that to your attention. So,
Okay.
and with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Yeah, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right.
Okay.